You know what goes good with stomach problems? Alcohol. Well, maybe not, but that's what I'm choosing to do this week. I've been sick all week dealing with the stomach bug that's been going around. So this is probably not wise, but it should make it a lot more interesting. Unfortunately, all I got is Pendleton, which is by far one of the worst whiskeys that you can ever buy. I'm more of a rum guy. I don't have any Mountain Dew left either, so the apple pie moonshine that I've got is kind of useless right now. Because that would be my preferred mix. But right now, I just got this cheap cream soda that I got from Walmart and Pendleton, which is probably going to do me no good. It's the alcoholic choice. Like I said, Pendleton. Blended Canadian whiskey. This is 80 proof, so I mean, it's not high. Well, I mean, it's not low, but it's certainly not high. And it doesn't actually taste very good. But that's all I've got, because I've taken most of the alcohol out of the van and left it at home before I left. Probably not wise to be driving around with a bunch of alcohol in a van that you live in. Because all it takes is one cop deciding to get a little bit nosy, and then you're in trouble. Ooh, excuse me. Nutters has also come up to my face because I've started talking, as he does every time. Hi, Nutters. Purring like a motorboat. Tomorrow's open season of duck hunting where I live. Traitor. Why do you sniff me like that? It's so weird. You and your big wet nose, you literally slide your nose up and down my arm. It's really, really, really weird. Ugh. God, it's so bad. People buy Pendleton? I see Auto Duck is not doing its job, but I'm not going to do its job for it, because the last time I did that, it did it late, and then everybody got pinged twice. I feel like your stomach will pop with that mixture. Well, you know what? Life's a lottery. Stop! You cannot have the alcohol. The song that is playing right now, I feel like plays in your head 24/7. Nutters. Brr. Tap. Tap. I don't like how you just licked my mustache. That's so weird. What is it? You're so weird. You're a weird animal. You're strange. You're a little fucked up. A little stupid, even. What's Kitty doing with the van life? I'm definitely going to have to get something bigger down the road. He wants to run around a lot more. I've been letting him run around on a leash and like a harness, but I have a feeling he wants some freedom. Not much could be given in here. But that'll come later. I am excited, though, because the weather is supposed to be turning here in the next few days. Like, start Monday, we're going to start getting low 50s, high 40s. Now, for Southerners, that's frostbite weather. That's hypothermia, and that is losing digits weather. For God's strongest Northerner, me, that is prime working and sleeping weather. I mean, it's still going to be 80 degrees during the day, but I could sleep during the day. And then do everything at night. Could you stop it? Why are you learning Blender? There's a lot of things I want to do that require me to learn how to model myself and animate myself that I want to do later on down the road. There is also an add-on for BeamNG that got released that it takes your replays that you do in BeamNG and makes them exportable to Blender, which I feel like I could do some crazy stuff with. I also want just a 3D model of the Duck and a few other characters, and I put some feelers out to see how much that would cost, and it would cost a lot of money. Which, I'm not complaining about the cost. Every artist has the right to charge as they will for their work. But I do not have $700 per character to get them rigged, modeled, textured, along with a few different body groups for clothes, hair, whatever it may be. So I'm going to choose, obviously, the easier route, which is learn myself on a program that I am absolutely unfamiliar with, and it will take me years to understand. Duckman becoming VTuber? No. What do you want? Is it because this is in the way of your food? There you go. No, that was not the problem. Oh, it's because this is in the way of where you want to lay. I see what the problem is. Gotta move my phone, which is gonna cause frame drop. Cut to Duckman frozen in the news next week. Dude, I've lived in northern Wyoming, southern Montana my entire life. It'll never happen. So, yeah, one of the biggest reasons why I want to learn to animate is because of that BeamNG thing. Because, I mean, as you guys know, I want to keep making cinematics, but I'm limited by the fact that BeamNG, while a very good simulator, doesn't allow for much more than just driving. I want characters in the cars. I want them to do things outside of the cars, in the environment, for the cinematics that I want to do. And because of that tool, it would allow me to export everything to Blender and do some cool stuff. Cat, will you? Oh, there's condensation on the cans, and he's licking the cans. That's gross, bro. Put him here. On top of, like, as you guys know, I'm writing 80s Haze, which is a comic that I want to eventually make someday. I'm writing it as a book right now, but I'm also kind of thinking, what if instead of a comic, I do an animated series? That could be possible if I can get the hang of Blender. But even if I don't, Blender would help speed up the process because instead of having to hand draw every panel, I could go into Blender, take models of the characters and everything, that all their assets and guns and everything, and turn them into a comic panel, which I could then shader and do whatever I need to make the process 10 times easier. I know a lot of other people do it like that, and I think that would be really, really neat, along with some other things. But I feel like Blender is just going to be a good skill to have. Now, could you stop it? I see you. I see you. What else was I about to say? I don't know. I've dealt with 3D modeling programs before, but nothing like Blender. My bad. Sorry, my phone just went off. I've done things like SolidWorks and Fusion 360, which are industrial CAD programs for making things like girder or like brackets to assemblies to anything like that, usually dealing with metal machining or 3D printing or anything like that for production, for an industrial setting. But Blender, despite being a quote-unquote CAD program, it's like comparing a violin to a guitar. It's got strings, it's got a neck, but you don't play it at all the same. Everything is different. So, I get the concept, I don't get the execution. So this is going to be interesting. So, here's our two options. We could try it just on our own, wing it, and go from there. Or we could boot up the donut tutorial and follow along with that. Oh my god. Vitriol whiskey. Never buying Pendleton ever again. I bought this Pendleton 4 years ago? 5 years ago almost? Actually, it'd be a little bit less. I bought it as like the day I turned 21. Just because I wanted that joy of buying alcohol. And I bought it, I think, yeah, about 3-4 years ago. Be 4 years ago in December. It's not good whiskey. It is very not good whiskey. Ugh. I don't know what I was thinking. I think it's because my dad drank Pendleton, so it was the only brand that I recognized. But no, I'm a Captain Morgan guy. I'm a rum guy. And a moonshine guy. Whiskey ain't cutting it. But it is almost empty, so I feel like I need to just, like, drink the rest of this. There's probably... It's 375 milliliters in here. That is about a fifth full, maybe a little bit less. Yeah, we can finish this. I say try the donut tutorial. Alright, we could do the donut tutorial. I can pull up the donut tutorial and then put it in a window so that way you guys can follow along with me. And we could try to figure out what we're doing from there. And I'm sure it will not go horribly in any way, shape, or form. Of which it will. First of all, let's get Blender open. Because I accidentally closed it. And make sure that OBS is set up correctly. It is set correctly. But I do want another window capture. Duplicate. Four-hour donut tutorial. Is it about 4 hours? I think it was a lot. I actually watched the donut tutorial last night for a little bit. But because I wasn't doing it, I don't think I held on to any of that information. Blender 4.0. There's a 10-minute version and a 10-hour version. Well, okay, so there's a playlist here. Let me pause you real quick. Oh, hold on. I actually want to watch this in Firefox because I'm not dealing with the ads. I've yet to move all my stuff over to Firefox. But I think I'm going to start slowly moving all my stuff over to Firefox. Since it's just 10 times better than Chrome. So if I click on that, hit pause.
This...
Oh my god, you're so loud! My ears! Okay.
Now we know how... This is Blender.
Yes, that is Blender.
Now we know...
Okay, we're opening this one. I'm gonna move Blender up to this screen and this one down to this screen. Because I want the tutorial below me. We're gonna do full screen on this. Then we're gonna go here, window capture. That one. And then that needs to be here. And then we're gonna actually shrink you. You're gonna go. Where should Mr. Blender guy go? We could put. I'm trying to figure out where he's not going to be intrusive. We're going to put him right above. No, I know you guys can't really see him, but that doesn't matter because I can see him. And I don't want to be just like, chat.exe is not working. Of fucking course it is. That's easy. Refresh. Refresh. There we go. Give it a second to catch up. Usually takes a second. Put it in the bottom, above chat.exe. Okay, well, he's actually a little bit too low. He's behind the bus goal. But we could also put him here. But I think here would be a little bit better. In fact, if I go to window capture and I click on it, I transform center vertically. Yes! Yes, 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 yes. Yes, that is good. Let's quiet down you. You don't need to be this loud. Alright, Ducc has still not said anything. I'm gonna give him 3 more minutes until 5:10, and then I'm gonna just ping it everybody myself. Because, again, it's slow. But this is super slow tonight for some reason. Okay.
Know how Blender functions, let's start building that donut. So, as before, let's, well, first of all, just to repeat, make sure you are working with a new scene.
We are in a new
Completely
scene.
new scene, don't want any remaining monkey heads lying around. Let's begin fresh slate, and let's delete our default cube, just with the delete key, and let's replace it with a new object. You might remember the hotkey for that is Shift-A. And as I mentioned before, you usually want what is underneath mesh, because these are your primitives. So we want to start with something that most resembles what it is we're building.
I'm hitting buttons too fast.
Cube. If it was a vase, you might start with a cylinder. In our case, we want the donut-shaped one, although mathematicians call it a torus for some reason. So let's add that. Now, if I zoom in by scrolling up, we can see we have something really...
Alright, hold on. This music is just ass. We're going back to the old reliable. Because this music is just distracting. There we go. Oh my god, why did it get warm in here all of a sudden? This fan's got to be on. I would turn the overhead vent on, but the bearing's going out, and so you guys would definitely hear that through the mic. Oy. Ugh. Oh my god, it's so bad. It's so bad. Ugh. People choose to drink Pendleton. That's horrifying, honestly. So many people I don't recognize. Alright, YouTube notifications isn't working on the Discord chat, so we're gonna do it ourselves. And it's gonna do it immediately after. Copy link. At stream notifications, Ducc broke again. Control V. There we go. Ugh. God, it's so warm. I'm so ready for the cold weather. This place sucks.
Resembling a donut. Looks like a pretty weak looking donut, you know, very flimsy. Looks like the donut before it's cooked when they just drop it into the vat and it's just this little wispy thing. So, immediately after you do some actions in Blender, you have options.
Okay, I understand this part.
Options are hidden down here in the bottom left-hand corner. You see.
Okay.
So how do we make this look higher resolution, less jagged? Well, one way is to use smooth shading. So if you right-click with your object selected, go to Shade Smooth. And look at that. This is immediately better. Without getting too technical, this is kind of a fakery. It's sort of like the shader is telling the renderer that this is a really high poly dense mesh.
I think I was supposed to bring up the resolution a little bit more. I skipped forward too far. But that's fine.
Faces and anyway, it's very technical, but basically means it's not going to add anything to your render time, but
Hi,
it's going
Steven.
to look smoother.
Do it
so
like
this
3
is
times. No.
Generally, what you want for something that is smooth and organic looking, like we want. If you were rendering like architectural or like hard surfaces.
Okay, get to the point.
This sort of jagged shape around here, right? So the silhouette is really breaking that illusion that this is a high poly or a smooth looking donut. But thankfully, rather than adding all of that complex density into the mesh itself and then making it hard to remove later on, there's another way through modifiers. So if we go over here to our properties, right, this very confusing, lots of option looking properties, click on the wrench, and this is the section called
Okay,
modifiers.
we want subdivide
This is one of those,
somewhere.
Object dependent things. So if you've got your camera selected, you won't see it. So it's only when you've got actual meshes that you might see this modifier here. So it's much easier to explain if we just add one. So up here, add modifier, and you got a range of options here that can do a whole number of things. The one that we're looking for is underneath generate, and it is called subdivision surface.
Aha!
And it is a really common modifier that you use all the time. In fact, it's so common, it's actually, you can just immediately add it to any
We're gonna make the
object.
donut first. We're gonna do the donut
But
tutorial,
do that,
as everybody
got
keeps
it,
saying
so
to do.
there. Now,
And
some
then
of
we're gonna
you
do
might
our
just
own
discover
stuff.
that
We
your
can
donut
probably
has
won't do it
disappeared.
tonight.
If that is the case, you need to go to Edit, Preferences, and then underneath Viewport, where it's got Subdivision at the very bottom, Disable GPU Subdivision. That will then make the subdivision perform on your CPU instead of
The
your
fun part of
GPU,
the
which
tutorial
is
is like yapping.
existing,
I know. I just want to get like
performing
point to point to point.
but disable that and it should appear. But if it's already working for you, don't disable it. Keep it going.
Like, this is a very good tutorial, but he talks so
What
much.
exactly is this doing? Well, it's a lot easier to explain if we look at the shade flat mode, because we're not being tricked.
Fucking hell!
Smooth shading is for cowards.
That why was that so I know why that's so loud, but why the fuck was it so loud? Fuck! Thank you for the $50. Let me go turn that down. Jesus. My fucking ears. That was Ray's idea to make that so damn loud. I'm gonna go punch him in the dick when I see him in Canada. Thank you for the $50. Ow. Overlays. Where the fucking chat? No, not that. I want fucking notice. Find your heart? Yeah, it's in my ass. Jesus. Tip alert. Fucking variation settings. That one. Volume 25%. That was set to 200%. What the hell? Save variation. Save. X out. Moving on. Oh, fuck. Moving on. All right. So we got subdivision. This guy's still yapping.
If I set this levels viewport to 0, this is our original mesh. This is before we add the subsurface, essentially. When we increase this, you can see that it is adding resolution
200?
to
Jesus.
our mesh.
That was
And the more
Ray's
we
idea.
increase
So
this
next time Ray
viewport
comes in
to
here,
0,
we all
the
yell at him.
finer and
Because
finer
all of our
detail
eardrums are
becomes.
bleeding and
To
it's his
explain,
fault.
Because this is such a very, very common modifier, it's kind of important to understand how it's working. You can see that this is these squares here. These are called faces, by the way. And for each one of these faces,
How do I
here,
turn off
as
Shade Smooth?
add a level,
I think he
you can
said
see it's
how, and
becoming
I just wasn't
4
paying
faces,
attention.
right? And then now, if I zoomed in on this one face here, if I do another level, that's now become 4 faces. And then if I zoom in again, it's now become 4 faces. So it's exponentially adding detail.
I can't
You
turn
might
off Shade
also
Smooth.
know that it is smoothing it out as well. Like this jagged edge that we've got here, you can see now becomes smoother. So to quickly visualize that, if I just draw it, like imagine you've got like a 90-degree.
I know how math
on
works.
the keyboard, it looks very jagged, but then for my render, if I
See, like I said, I'm used to 3D model programs. I understand most of this. Like, obviously, it's very different in Blender compared to, like, SolidWorks and whatnot, but I understand this. So, like, I really wish he would just stop talking and move on to his next point. Like, I know why he's doing it, but, like, he needs to have another version that says, all right, we're just going to go point to point to point to point to point, follow along.
If I do my render, which you could go up there and render image, or remember the hotkey F12, you can see that that donut is now smooth, but I go back and you can see it's jagged. So the viewport, you want to generally keep it lightweight, and then the render time.
I'm sure you'll see how it works again.
A really nice looking, pretty.
Let me pour myself another drink. We're going to be here for a minute. Press Z to see the topology. No. Kind of. That was the wrong button to hit. That was very the wrong button to hit, actually. It has crashed it. So, I think you lied to me. No, oh, we're back. We're back. Get out of rendered. Solid. Not the right button.
Image, so you want to often have two different levels. In our case, though, I don't really think we need to go beyond one, even for our final pretty image, because this with shade smoothing turned on is good enough. And we're going to be adding more to the scene later on, so we don't want to make it too complex. So this is actually pretty good.
Wait, hold on.
Later on, so we don't want to make it too complex. So this is actually pretty good. Okay, so
You turn on
because
shade
this
smoothing, and he's
with,
got the thing.
shade smoothing turned on is good enough, and we're going to be adding more to the scene later on. CPU will be faster. So what exactly is this doing? Well, it's a lot easier to explain if we look at the shade flat mode.
Oh,
Being,
it's shade
tricked
flat.
by the,
Okay, we got it. We're
smooth
good.
Shading there. A perfect donut, and that's
Blender crash? No, we're good.
is
We're good. We're
perfect.
fine. We are golden.
Spend decades trying to develop a machine in the real world that made a donut this perfect, and you never would. This is so mathematically precise that the eye will always see this as looking fake. So that's actually a problem you learn pretty quickly in 3D, that things that are too perfect.
Okay, so these are some of the parts I remember picking up last night.
Making things look misshapen and adding variation there, like you see in the real world, because your eye expects to see it. So how do we do that? How do we make this donut look a little more lumpy and interesting? I do that by changing the mesh itself. So this mode that we are in right now, where we can, click on different objects, is called object mode. And I know that because in the top left-hand corner, you can see we are in object mode. But if I click the drop down, you can see I get a number of other options here. And these options, again, will change depending on the object you've got selected. If I've got a lamp, my little light there selected, you can see I've only got object mode. My camera, I've only got object mode. But a mesh will give you extra options here. So let's
You got jam in that donut?
edit
No, absolutely not.
Ooh.
Okay, jelly-filled donuts are the devil. Let me put that out there right now. Okay, cream-filled, jelly-filled, they're all awful. They're all in the same category. They're just banned. No other way to put it. They're banned. And in fact, I'm going to say it. Donuts as a whole are banned. Okay, Long Johns are where it's at. Donut, boring. Long John donut? Well, I don't know if it considers a donut, but way better. Another drink. The condensation is getting water everywhere. It's so damn humid in here. Okay, so yeah, I remember proportional editing from watching this last night. So we just gotta go through and make it kind of fucked up, if you know what I mean. I feel the same way about stuffed pizza crust. No, stuffed pizza crusts are entirely different. That should be a requirement for all pizzas. Shame I started from making furries instead of donuts. There, like I said, there was the option at the start of the stream. We could have just said fuck it and just started making the Cyberduck. That's the goal. I think that's the first character I'm going to create because it's both round and easy to model, organic, but it's also got some hard faces on it too, and lighting and electronics and whatnot. So that could have been where we started. But of all the tutorial that I watched last night, hard-faced modeling, I don't think ever gets brought up yet. So like this cyber eye that the duck has for that one alt is gonna be an interesting thing to figure out. that's a nice little fucked up donut. I mean, we gotta bring in the bottom a little bit. And the top. But we could pretty much skip past this part. If that isn't a donut but a bagel. This actually makes me crave donuts. How do you render the salmon and cream cheese? You eat your bagel with salmon? If you need some help with Blender, I could try to help with stuff. Well, I think we're gonna do this like let's do this every Friday. Because I really want to learn how to use Blender, and every time I've tried to use Blender, I've stepped away after 5 minutes because I kept getting frustrated. But if we put all 10 of our brain cells together, I think we can manage to figure out how this program works. Don't forget about the hole in the center. We are not going to forget about the hole in the center. Yeah. Okay, this looks too perfect. There's our little crusty donut. Bold of you to assume that we even have that many. Hey, I'm counting nutters too. So that's at least one more on a good day. 10 brain cells total or average? Yes. Nutters, check. You should have been here earlier. He was being weird. He because I was drinking shit, and then he immediately went up and sniffed my mustache and licked some water off of it. And I had to push him away. But what the fuck are you doing, you creepy animal? He has a full bowl of water. Why did you have to lick it off my mustache, you freak? Is that including Nutter's 8 brain cells? Now that's a bold assumption right there. Everybody knows that cats have one singular shared brain cell. And he certainly doesn't get it every day. He'd be surprised if he gets it once a month. Anyways, I think our donut is nice and malformed. It looks a little bit too perfect down here. That was F. I don't know what F did. Yeah, all right. We're good here. Nutters is sharing the collective brain cell of all orange floofs. No, the fuck he isn't. So, okay. I think we're good here. How far along can we skip in the tutorial?
Now, this is okay, right? But you can see it's got some artifacting. It's not the greatest lump. Okay, so with this, I can now make quick work of lumpy shapes, okay? Forgot to mention, go back into edit mode with tab. Donuts, when they're sitting in the little vat thing, right? They're only half submerged, and then they have to be flipped. But it means that the bit that's nearest to the surface is getting less heat. So essentially, what I'm saying is the bit that's around the donut, the circumference of it, is usually a little bit flatter. So donuts aren't perfectly round all the way around. They're usually a little bit flatter. So what I want to do is I want to select these vertices along here, and then I want to shrink them. Now I could go around one by one like this, which is actually what I used to do when I was learning Blender pre-YouTube days, and there was no tutorials. I would do this if I wanted to select this. Silly, because there's a function, a tool for that, and it is edge select. So if you hold down Alt on your keyboard and then do a single left click on not the points, but on the edge, like this little line here, you can see it's selected all the way around. So it's anything that's connected along that line is now selected. So if I want to shrink this, right, what would I do? Well, I mean, yeah, you could like move it around, right? We want to shrink it. We want to change the scale of it. So we would use the hotkey S for scale. So S, and I'm going to scale that in. And I actually don't want proportional editing. So I'm going to turn that off and now scale in and just make it a little bit flatter. And
It should be fucked up.
See, it just feels a little bit more natural, doesn't it? Looks a little bit closer to what a donut.
Because we got to turn that off.
And by the way, don't worry if yours doesn't look exactly like this. Like you're
There we go.
Off. Like some people get a little bit too precious with the tutorial. They gotta match
Guide is
exactly
taking it a bit too
everything I
seriously,
do.
methinks.
Like I'm just working on the fly.
I know nothing
So
about
just
Blender. We're gonna follow him.
what you think
Whatever he
looks good.
says,
Maybe
we're
you
gonna
think
follow
this
it
is
to
not
a sort of
misshapen
T.
enough and you want to add more, go for it because it might actually turn out better than what mine is. Now, before we move to the next part, how to save. How to save. Blender, very, very easy. You just go save as, and you just get one file. It's called
Art Stuff's
dot
3D folder.
donut.
Donut.
Very literal file extension. Really pushing the limits of what
Save
a file
Blender file.
extension can be. That's almost a word, Blender. Anyway, .blend, and that's it. And then next time you open it up, it's
Okay,
exactly
next video.
like it. It's not like. Did you guys know that Blender 4.0 had a change that makes it more realistic by default? As I mentioned before, if you want to add an object, you go Shift A, right? And then you start with something that resembles what you're trying to create. But we already have
our
something
donut
that
is really
resembles
fucked up.
the exact shape we want to create. It's the donut, because we want the icing around the donut. So let's just reuse this information. So we can do that by duplicating the object. And if you don't know the hotkey for it, you could just go Object, and then you'd find it here where it says Shift D. So Shift D. Now, when you hit that, you are in a placement state, essentially. Like it's duplicated, and it's now saying,
Remember
where
this?
do you want to place it?
So
Now, in our case,
fuck.
and actually often, you don't actually
You take
want
a
to
shower,
change its placement. You
Bonifacio.
want to
I know what
duplicate
you're trying to say.
exactly where it was. So you can cancel the movement by hitting Escape or right-clicking. Now, when you do that, it looks like it's canceled the duplication, but you can see in your outliner, it has duplicated it. You've got two objects, but
donut.
it's just
I
in the exact same place, which is what we
prefer
want.
lumpy donut, personally.
So first things first, we need to name them, or else we could get very confused very easily. So you can name an object by just double-clicking it in the outliner.
That's how you
Just
spell dough.
typing in the object. The other way you can name something, I'll just show you the second way. If you select the
Okay,
Taurus
perfect.
0.001, that's your icing object. If you're in the 3D view, where your cursor, is over the bottom half of our mesh here is redundant. Don't need it. So we want to delete it. So if we just dragged over the bottom here, you can see it looks like we've selected the bottom half of our donut, but if you were to move around, you would see, oh, we haven't actually. It's only selected, annoyingly, what is facing the camera. Where there's a mesh, it's not gone through the mesh. A lot of users find this annoying. I agree. Sometimes it seems like that would be the more default one that would make more sense. But anyway, don't want to argue. So if you want to select through a mesh, you can go
Drinking
up
rum
to
and coke
here.
tonight. Pendleton and
What do you-
cream
top
soda I found at
navigation,
Walmart. That's
toggle
really not that good,
X-ray.
and Pendleton
If you turn
itself
that
is not
on,
really
it's
good.
going
So
to enable you to
I
see.
may end up giving up on it and seeing if I can find some vodka or something like that.
Through the mesh. And now, when I drag over it, you can see that I have selected all through the mesh as I move around it. By the way, you might find it like when you're in this state, it's kind of hard to select. Like it's easy to kind of accidentally select what is above it, and depending on what you've got at your end, that might have happened
All right, we get it. Move on.
all the way through the mesh. Select. All right. Okay. All right. So we want to delete that. So just hit the delete key. You get an extra option here of what do you want to delete: edges, faces. You want the vertices. That's everything. And now we have, if we go back to object mode, and then let's turn off toggle X-ray as well, and you can see it's working. We got half the donut on top of itself, but as you move around, you can see you get some flickering. Now, this flickering happens, and it's actually a very common, it's actually a good warning sign to you as an artist, because it means you've got faces on top of faces, and the 3D software doesn't know which face, that's what it's called, Z fighting, or Z fighting, if you're not American. So adding another modifier, make sure you've got your icing selected, not your donut, and then here where you've got add modifier, we're gonna go generate, solidify. Okay, Now it's made it worse.
When do we get
it's
to the
actually added a
When the donut
thickness
is finished,
to our,
do not
mesh
rush
there,
the baker.
But it's actually done it the wrong way.
Pause. Do not rush the baker, or I'll start throwing raw donuts at you. You could eat the raw donuts, but they're probably not going to be nearly as good. The part that's driving me nuts about this tutorial is he does so much talking, but I don't dare skip. Because he'll be like, blah, 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 do this, blah, 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 blah. Like he'll throw random things in the middle of his yammering, and it's like, I can't, you need a tutorial where you just like, this is what you do, this is what it does. Rather than sit there and try to explain things for like the next 30 fucking minutes. Just get me to the next point. That's how I like to consume things, is point to point to point to point. I'm actively always doing something. Sitting and listening drives me mad. It drives me crazy. It drives me insane. Just make your point and go. Ugh.
Okay, so it's with the normals. Yeah, what is it? It's
No,
trying
I
to
was
put
not
the,
very good in school, if
the
you're
extra
wondering.
bit inside the donut. So we can change that by just changing the offset here in the solidifier settings. Just drag that all the way to 1. Some of you might have actually found that it was correct before, just depending on which way your normals were. If that's the case, keep it at -1, but everyone else, keep it at 1. We just want to make sure it's actually outside. Okay. Let's just increase the thickness a little bit too. Let's go, 0.025. That looks pretty good. And great, we've got what looks like a yarmulke on our donut. A perfectly straight edge little hat for our donut. So let's make this look more like icing. So the edge is wavy.
Oh, my fan fell over.
all
That's
the
no why.
way
I wonder why I'm
around.
boiling alive.
So to do this is where we get into the fancy finger magic. Because you're typing lots of keys. Anyway, go into edit mode, and we can see straight away that we can't the mesh, and that's because the solidify modifier is obstructing our view. So these little boxes here, as I mentioned before, like this is to hide it from viewport. But if you want to just
we
hide
want
it
this
from
above, don't
your
we?
Edit mode, which is the state that we are in right now, the
No,
box
no, we
next to it
want it
is the
below.
one that you uncheck, which means in object mode, when you're tabbed in object mode, you can still see it, but edit mode, it's it's temporarily hidden for you. So if I was to select one of these points here and move it down, you can see that it's working, but it would be, again,
Wait,
a
what?
lot of effort to go round and round and do these one by one.
Something's
So we
not
wanna
making
use
sense
that,
all of a sudden.
Old familiar proportional fall off.
Oh, no, never mind. We're fine.
So proportional editing on, and now as I move it down, let's just lower the slider way down here, and then let's pull this down. Okay, now we'll find issues. If we move to the side here, we can see the first issue we've discovered is that this is separating from our mesh here.
Can I help you, Nutters? Meow? What? Meow. Meow. Anyways.
And that's not what icing does. When it dribbles down, it follows the shape of the donut all the way down. So what we want to do is snap, oops, undo it, and then
Okay. I got cans in the way of chat. Put them behind me for now, and I'll take them out later to the recycling bin. Tudes for the donut are almost always a lot of talking. If it wasn't for how I start, I would never use Blender. I start from porting shit from COD games and simple furries, and now it's big shite. Where is cat view? I do not have a dash cam. Fucking dash cam. Webcam. It'll be a thing that I worry about later. It will exist at some point. I have a plugin that I can use my GoPro 10 on. I just haven't gotten around to setting it up.
times, snap the vertices to our donut underneath it, right? So for that, we need to turn on snapping up here. Okay, now
Up
there are
where?
a
Hold
number
on.
of ways to snap.
Pause. Where's snapping? Oh, right here. His layout is a little bit different than mine, so that's a bit annoying.
In Blender, the default way is increment, which just means the like the grid floor there. Like if you were to just like move it around, you can see it's just snapping to the grid floor. Not helpful. But we want to snap it to the face. And now with face snapping enabled, if we move this down, we can see, let's just look here, that the bottom bit is snapping to the face, but as you might have seen, the top bits, the rest of essentially what is inside of our circle of influence with this proportional editing, that's not being affected. Only the little point that we had selected was affected. So that's not what we want either. Normally that would be enough, but in this particular case, we want to also snap individual elements too. And let's go face project. Now, when we pull this down, you should see that these are also no longer clipping through the donut. But still, we have issues. Why is that? Well, it is actually working correctly. We can see these are not going through the mesh, so why does it look like it is? The reason for that is that there's actually just not enough information here. So if we go side on, you can see, right, like we've got this point here, and then we've got another point down here, and then we've got this long stretch. So these little vertices here, we need more of those vertices. So we can do that by actually using the subdivision surface modifier. Because although it is a modifier, you can apply the modifier. And the modifier currently is adding geometry, so let's just apply it. So to apply it, we just click this little drop down here next to the modifier, and then go apply.
Hold on. Mine doesn't let me do that for some reason. Oh, not allowed from edit mode. So we got to go to object mode, apply. Okay. Now we go back to edit mode, and if we do this, what are you still doing here?
Nothing should have changed from this view because the same information is being displayed. But in edit mode, you should now see exponentially more faces, because here, where there was one face before, you can see there's now.
Oh God, my fucking phone! Please tell me that didn't disconnect everything. Nope, we're good.
4x. Okay. So now, if we pull down, we should see.
Okay, well,
face before you can see
my question, sir.
A lot more. Apply.
Why is when I go
now,
into
nothing should have changed from this view because the same information is being displayed. But in edit mode, you should now see exponentially more faces, because here, where there was
I think I know what I did wrong.
Before,
Look at
you
edit
can see
mode.
there's now
Nope, it's still doing.
a lot more.
Why is my mesh still being hidden? Why is this here? Hold on, we broke something. Okay, go back. Hold on. We've broken something. First of all, he's got these on, so we'll turn them on.
Modify currently is adding geometry, so let's just apply it. So to apply it, we just click this little drop down here next to the modifier, and then go apply. Now, if we, nothing should have changed from this view because the same information is being displayed. But in edit mode, you should now see.
I'm confused. Why is this? Why is this now showing up? His isn't showing up, so I can't see the mesh. Oh, it's because Solidify also has it on. I see. What's that little triangle on the modifiers? Okay, I turned it on. I'll take your word for it.
Exponentially more faces, because here, where there was one face before, you can see there's now a lot more. Right, 4x. Okay, 4x. Okay, so now if we pull down, we should see it is snapping, and if we go into this mode, you can see that it's now conforming to the mesh in a much more.
Okay, now shut up. We could do this all the way around. Okay, we've learned how to do this. Now we ignore him and go haywire with this. Right? That's how that works. Is you learn something, then you don't listen to the guy for the next, I don't know, however many minutes, and you just do everything on your own without any guidance. I've been to school before. I failed a lot of my classes, but I'm pretty sure that's how most of it works. I have broken something majorly. Hold on. There we go. I just selected too many, I guess. Screw you, teacher. I know what I'm doing. How's that look? I'd say that's looking pretty donut-like. We gotta do the inside, too. The inside's looking a little bad. Gotta fix that. Inside's looking... Okay, I think we have made mistakes, because... Oh god. Do not hit H. H breaks stuff beyond recognition. I mean, it still looks a little bit odd, but you know what? That's fine. That's fine, I'm sure.
Nug way, because there's information there for it to use. Now this shading artifact here that we can see, this don't worry about that, we'll fix that in just a moment. But I need to show, because I've shown you like 4 things that we need to enable for this to work. I got to show you one more, because if I pull down and if I scroll up, you'll see something. Okay, if I was to click, we get this horrible problem here, and I've done this tutorial on enough, and enough people have hit this issue that I need to call it out specifically, because it seems to be a big point that a lot of people just don't know where to go from. What's happened is if we use a what's it called, the circle of influence for our proportional editing, if that is so high, it's actually high enough to reach the mesh on the other side of the donut, and then because we've got snapping, it's now projecting that, snapping it to the front, which is creating this like something that's a nightmare to fix. I mean, in fact, it's easy just to start from scratch than to try to fix that. So if we want, sorry, there's a lot of noise. To fix this, we need to hide the part of the mesh that we don't want to be influenced by our proportional tool, right? So to do that, there is an easy way to do it. We can actually do it very precisely. So if with this middle bit of our donut here, if I just hold down Alt and then do a left click, as I mentioned before, that selects the ring, okay? And we could, we could do that all the way up, but actually there's a little, I don't know if it's an Easter egg. It's kind of a cool tool that not many people know about. Control plus. That will enable the select more tool. A chain, roughly select more, less. You can also, as though it's been deleted. It's very, sometimes mesh, reveal 4 different ways.
Okay, I've done that on accident. I figured out how to use the hide button on accident, but I knew it was the hide button. I hope. We're gonna just keep on skipping until we hit a wall, I guess.
And problems to explain. We can now take part of this mesh and drag it down.
Select
and
all 4, you get a nice view
work.
of the mission.
Correct.
Oh!
So
Oh! Look at that! Oh, God. I forgot to put the fucking... Ugh. I started pouring another drink, but then I put the Pendleton in and got distracted and forgot to put the cream soda in. So I just took a big old gulp of just straight Pendleton. This is the worst fucking whiskey.
now we get to now finally be an artist and go like, what's...
Come on.
You might also want to make some bits that go the opposite direction.
No.
Right, and then maybe pull, so you've got like big shapes as well as medium shape. Use of my Discord, so we can fix that just by adding another subsurf modifier. Because you might remember I mentioned like, yes, if you've got 3 vertices, it'll create like another vertice here and another vertice here, but it'll also like round it out. It'll pull
at least
this
the
one back.
The viewport controls are very similar to Fusion 360 and SolidWorks, so I guess I got that going for me. So
So you end up with a rounded, these does matter, okay? You want your...
So we want another subsurface modifier. And
solidify at the top and the subdivision after it. So Blender works top to bottom, and it's important it's in this way because you want the extrusion to happen first, and then in order to round that edge, it has to happen as a secondary step. So solidify on top, subdivision underneath. Now whilst we're here and we're looking at the close-up, nice little profile of this edge of this icing, another issue to call out. You can
is
see
it
it's
worse
got
than
this,
Jack? Could not even describe the taste of it. It is so fucking bitter. It's actually almost unbearable. However, I've got so much of it left, I think I'm going to just pour the rest of it in and endure it. And if it comes to be a problem, I'm just going to wash it down with green tea. I'm finishing this bottle tonight. That was a fucking mistake. There was a lot more in that bottle than I thought. Oh, good heavens. Here. Have a bottle, Nutters. He smelled it and then his head went, ugh. He even hates the smell of Pendleton. And he smells everything. Ow. Hey, quit bapping at me. Quit bapping. Listen here, bapper. Bap, 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 bap. Oh, God. Yeah, mistakes were made adding the rest of the bottle like that all at once, but whatever. I'm here for a good time, not a long time, I guess. Press the fourth button on the something. Okay, got it. All of it's visible.
This shape that goes around, yes, so far so good, but then it goes up. And it's like, it would be better if it went around and then tucked in and touched the edge of it, because that would look more like real liquid would. So we can solve that by just changing one of the settings in the solidify modify. It's not one of those things that you would figure out or know where it is. It's just over time you learn where some of these settings are. But essentially here, the edge data. So we want to change the edge data to say that before you do the solidify step, add a crease on the inner part right here. If we...
How do you write the name of what you're drinking now? I want to check it out. Pendleton. Or O. Yeah. Pendleton. Pendleton. Right? Yeah. Pendleton. Blended Canadian whiskey. It comes in a plastic bottle, if that tells you anything. That's plastic. That should be a dead giveaway of the quality. Whiskey in a plastic bottle, it's trash. Every time.
Increase this all the way to 1, it now creates a sharpened edge just on that inner part there. So the rest of it is a smoothed edge, but the middle one, there's a crease, so it's making...
Can I increase this thickness just a little bit more without breaking things?
Just a little bit more realism. Just looks a little bit closer to what you would imagine real...
Yeah, there we go.
...would do.
That looks a lot better.
Now for the cool bit. All right. So if you look at reference of donuts, right? Yes, you've got these little wavy bits, but where the icing is really liquidy, it'll often break off from this wave here, and it'll create a trail that goes down underneath the donut, right? It just sort of drips all the way down. Whoops, bumped the microphone. So we can do that, but not the way we were doing it before. If we just took one of these points and then like drag...
I once again remind you,
down,
I bought that like 4 years ago. It's the Canadian version of Southern Comfort. Then why is it in the U.S.? Actually, let me take that back, because I haven't seen a bottle of Pendleton anywhere further than Colorado. So I guess it bleeds through from Canada. Like, I haven't seen one in the South, and that's probably a good thing. Oh my God. That is strong now.
Like that. There wouldn't be enough information there, right? You can see you just get this like stretched look, and it doesn't look great, okay? So essentially we need to give it more information. And we couldn't just do it by like adding more and more subdivision surfaces. We need to actually like break this shape here and create a new shape that goes down. So we need to extrude. So if I select this vertice and then the one next to it by holding down Shift, I don't think I mentioned it, but yeah, if you want to select two things at once, it's Shift, Select. Anyways, so if we select two vertices like that, we want to extrude it downward by hitting E. So when you tap E, it's similar to G in that you're in a placement state now, saying where do you want to place this? So I'm going to move it down to, yeah, like about there where I want the trail to stop, and I'm just going to do
Oh, I know what I did wrong. Yeah, that's what we want. That looks a little bit odd. For some reason, it's kind of going... And I don't know if that's because I got this on. No. Whoa. Whoa, we've broken some stuff. Okay. I think we need to actually turn some of these off. I think having some of these viewports on is actually breaking things. If I turn this on, yes. Having those on is actually breaking a few things. So there's instances where we want to have those turned off. Ow! Why did you attack my foot, you a-hole? Okay, we know what we're doing.
click, left click, and it's now placed it there. Now, it's hard to see it, but if I just switch to wireframe, you can see what it's doing. So it's created this breakaway shape here, an entirely new face that's completely separate to what we've got there currently. And what this means, and the reason I've done this 1, 2, 3 is that this detail here is important so that it conforms to the shape of the donut. Because if there's not enough, you're going to have that clipping issue. Add more of that. So here, wherever there's essentially like...
What the hell? Why did you do that? Oh, there's a moth in here, you fucking a-hole. Good thing those cans were empty. Well, go get it. You did all that effort, now go get it. Bug control. Oh, you lost track of it, you fucking dumbass. I am hoping that came through on microphone. He jumped from the refrigerator or the cooler in between the seats all the way to the table behind me that had the empty cans on it to chase after a moth. But as soon as the cans hit the floor, he got distracted by the sounds of the cans and the moth flew away, and he's lost track of it now. So now he's like looking around trying to gain track of it, and that thing has flown out the window. He's so dumb. He's so dumb.
like a big dip is and down.
Okay, so yeah, the end of this video is pretty much just, yeah, keep doing this. Broke some things. We have broke some things. Okay, I remember what he said to do. We need to do this. Why is this not working? Oh wait, is it Alt? It was Alt. Okay, well that's a little bit broken for some reason. And then it was Alt plus? Or is it Control plus? Control plus. Hi. Yeah. We're learning things. We didn't need his help to figure that out. 1.5 of brain cell. Yes. I kind of hate how the select window isn't showing up. Just kind of... Whoa. Okay, we have broken something. So fierce. I think it's because I'm selecting the beam across it too. No, well, okay. We have broken something bad here. Turn that all off. It seems to be creating extra nodes. Yeah, like what happened here? Something's really messed up all of a sudden. Okay, what did we break? We've really screwed something up. Oh, it's because you were selected. But that still doesn't answer our question. What the hell happened here? Because that's entirely broken. No matter how you look at it. Okay. Problem is whatever happened here, we can't select it. Oh, I think we may have fixed it. We deleted the vertices. We may have fixed it. I think we still hide this in here. So that way something doesn't get selected again. Stuff is still getting broken. Okay, I think we've corrected it. We found... No, because here's more. Okay, so I think some things just got a little buggy. If we go through and double check and delete vertices that don't exist, such as this one. I think that corrects our problem. What the hell happened here? We have a hole in our mesh. I don't think we can correct that very easily. What the hell? Okay, so we got these. Those appeared out of nowhere. There's something going on back here. I'm not sure what that's about. We're gonna ignore... Wait. Oh! There's an... No, that's not it. Alright, let's go back to what we were doing and see if that continues to break it a little bit more. Let's turn that off. Okay, I think we've corrected it. if I select these and hit extrude, it's still doing weird things. It's still creating meshes out of nowhere. Like, who are you? And why are you here? If I delete you... Okay, so what... I'm so lost as to what's breaking here. Okay, so... Hold on.
Right? Yes, you've got these little wavy bits, but where the
Refer
icing is really liquidy.
to... Oh my god. Refer to the tutorial.
It'll often break off from this wave here, and it'll create a trail that goes down underneath the donut, right? It just sort of drips all the way down. Whoops, bumped the microphone. So, we can do that, but not the way we were doing it before.
Believe my
If we
parents
just
will.
took one
I
of
could
these
do that.
points and then like dragged it all the way down like that, there wouldn't be enough information there. So, if I select this vertex and then the one next to it by holding down Shift, I don't think I mentioned it, but yeah, if you want to select two things at once, it's Shift, Select. Anyways, so if we select two vertices like that, we want to extrude it downward by hitting E. So when you tap E, it's similar to G in that you're in a placement state now, saying where do you want to place this? So I'm going to move it down to, yeah, like about there where I want the trail to stop, and I'm just going to do click, left click, and it's now placed it there. Now, it's hard to see it, but if I just switch to wireframe, you can see what it's doing.
See, it keeps
So it's
picking up
created
ones
this
behind it
breakaway
out of the
shape,
blue.
An entirely new face that's completely separate to what we've got there currently. And what this means is if we go to object mode, you can see it's not just like continuing this form here, it's pulled it down, right? Which is exactly what we want. And in fact, I wanted to go even further than that. So I'm going to select those two vertices, and I'm going to pull it down again, and then I'll do it again. And the reason I've done this 1, 2, 3 is that this detail here is important so that it conforms to the shape of the donut. Because if there's not enough, you're going to have that clipping issue that I showed you.
Look, it keeps creating them
good.
out of the
Now,
blue.
We're going to do it again. Originally, in my earlier versions of the donut, I only did like one.
Where did you come from? And what are you connected to? You're connected to this over here. Why? Okay, but if I delete you, nothing breaks. You're broken. What are you? Who the fuck are you? Delete that one. Okay, so it just has a tendency to break. Like, a lot. And for no real reason as to why. There's no real explanation as to what it's like grabbing things through. It's like grabbing meshes through the donut and making more. Okay. So far, so good. So if I do this, if I select these two, okay, let's click out of here, select these two. Okay, I think, wait, no, because why are you selected? It's so weird. It's grabbing stuff from outside of the view plane or from like what you're clicking on and adding it to whatever you're editing without like any reasoning behind it. And it's just kind of weird. Okay, this looks odd. Now I've really fucked it. Okay, you know what? We're gonna ignore it. We're ignoring it for now. There is our donut. Okay, we've got it. Moving on to the next video.
Congrats. You didn't give up. You made it.
I
to
almost
part
gave
4. You
up.
clicked on the next part of the video. There's always like less viewers each. Go into edit mode. And first of all, by the way, if you can't see that middle part of your mesh, it's because you remember we temporarily hid it. So you can bring it back by hitting Alt-H, and that will bring back the rest of the mesh. And then we're looking for issues with the mesh, like right here. So this is a really common problem following this tutorial, because when you're projecting parts of the mesh, if it was like side on to the camera, it will project it that way, and then you can have like overlapping parts of the mesh. So that creates this artifact here, which will be exaggerated when we add more detail to it. So we just want to drag that back. So turn on snapping, and I'll keep proportional turned off, and then I'm just going to move this back over here just to move each of these points back. Another very common problem is you might have parts that have separated from your mesh. Now you can quickly fix this if you just like selected the point and then hit G to move it. When you're in that state, it's also snapping it to the mesh. Now you could do that all the way along, like select, tap G, then click, select, tap G, then click. But anybody's got time for that. Let's make Blender do the work for us. So there's a tool that's just designed for this, and it's called the Shrink Wrap Modifier. So over to our trusty modifier stack, we're going to add yet another modifier. So add modifier. It's not under generate, it's under deform, which we haven't accessed before. New modifiers. Ooh, the one we're looking for is shrink wrap. And first of all, hasn't done anything because it needs to know what the target is. What is the mesh that we're shrink wrapping our mesh to? So with this little eyedropper tool, you can see when you've clicked it, my cursor's changed to an eyedropper. And now if I hover over objects, I got the name of it. So I want to click on the object that is the donut, and now it's snapped to the donut and made it worse. Why, Andrew, would you make us do that? Remember, the order of your modifier stack matters. So the reason this happened is because we've done it after the solidify mod. So if it works top to bottom, we want the shrink wrap to happen before any of the extrusion happens. So now that it's there, it's correct. And this is what it looks like before, and this is after. And it's subtle, right? And you'll probably see this across your mesh, like little subtle changes where maybe it just separated off the mesh, which wasn't quite a perfect alignment, but this will just correct that. So great, we don't need this here now. We can just apply it because it was just a once-off operation, and now all our mesh should be perfectly flat. And assuming you haven't got any other issues going.
So if we apply this, we are in theory good. That looks a little bit odd. Oh. Oh. That looks odd. I'm not sure what's causing that. Oh, wait, hold on. We got some major problems actually. What the hell is happening here? I don't get like 90% of the issues that we're having and as to why they're happening. I don't see any extra nodes or anything like that, so I'm going to assume that this... Wait, why did I make another one? What? Oh, there's a one in there! Get rid of it! There was just a node inside the node. So now that I've gotten rid of it, well, now it actually looks worse. What is going on? Okay, well, that actually did a lot more damage. double checking for nodes inside of nodes. It still looks a little bit odd, but it looks a lot more acceptable. And it's not split at the bottom anymore. What the fuck? Why? Okay, why? I don't understand. Why are some nodes selecting through other nodes? Why am I selecting shit up here when I'm clicking on nodes down here? I'm so fucking lost as to why this keeps happening. And there's nothing to explain that. You ever heard of Forever Winter? I think Onyx mentioned that to me. I haven't had a chance to look and see what it is, though. Look at that. It's connected to a node up there. Why is there a node up there that it's connected to? And it's tied to it. Like, I can't delete it without breaking everything. But now it's not connected to it. What the fuck is going on? I don't understand why that is an issue, but I think that it has resolved all of the problems we've had. I think there's still one more here. You. Okay, and you're not tied to anything, correct? No. So if I delete you, you should not break anything. Okay, now it's nice and smooth. I think we fixed that. What's happening here? Another one. Nodes on top of nodes that don't exist. Don't think I didn't see that. Here's another one. I see it. I think it has to relate to whatever we did down here. Because when we did stuff down here, like all of these appeared. Let's get rid of those. Yeah, I mean, look at that. So I think we accidentally created a whole subsection of nodes that simply do not exist. Or should not exist. And so by deleting those, yeah, I think we've fixed it. Us screwing around in the center of the donut has actually caused us issues later on down the line. Okay, so I think we actually figured it out. So if I apply the shrink wrap, I deleted the shrink wrap. There we go. I think we fixed the mesh. I think we're actually good now. We can continue.
Again, make sure you can help out. All right, so we want to do some sculpting. Now, why do we want to sculpt? Well, because if you look at reference photos of donuts with icing on them, you'll see that icing is obviously a liquid, and liquid does weird things. One of the weird things that it does is that it will pool in certain areas. It's not like a uniform amount all the way on it. So the most obvious being like at the end of this trail here, there would be more that would accumulate at the end there. And I think the reason for it is that because it's a
Okay, we wanna go to
viscous
sculpt
fluid,
mode.
once it runs out of enough fluid, there's not enough to kind of push it forward, but there's enough for it to build up. So you would have like a build-up here on each of these ends, but you would also have build-ups all along the edge. And you can see it in reference photos. Like here, we've got this like clear, was it like a glaze? And basically, so we can't do that currently. Like if you go into edit mode, we don't have any mesh to work with because the extrusion, the thickened part is happening via this modifier. So we need to make the modifier real. So again, we're just going to apply it. Drop down, apply. Now in edit mode.
Okay, so now we got to go back to object mode, and we got to apply that. Sure.
We have that part of the mesh to work with. So we could, if you wanted to, come in here and like select the points that you want to add, you know, a bulge to, and then very carefully come in and tap G, and then, oh, I've got snapping turned on, turn that off. Pull this out, right? And go like that and go, yep, there's a little bulge there, but that's very tedious to first select a point, then tap a key to move it. It's very tedious. So that's really like you just need to use another tool to do the job. So edit mode is one tool, and it's good for like very precise things when you need to get precise things. But for more like organic shapes, more freehand stuff, that's where sculpting comes in. So at the top here, we've just been flipping between object and edit mode, but the one underneath it is sculpt mode. So when we go into that mode, you'll see that we have on the left-hand side all of these tools that appear. And I mean, this isn't a sculpting like tutorial really, we're just really going to scratch the surface, but they do different things, different sculpting things. Like let's just use the default tool here. Can't really see much happen. Let's just turn up the strength and the size of it. Like it just pulls out that part of it. And even that quick little one stroke, imagine if you had to select each. What we're looking for is actually, it's this one, the inflate brush, which is just conveniently the I hotkey, inflate. By the way, if you want to change the size of brushes in Blender, I mean, you've got these ones here, you've also got the strength slider here, but there is a hotkey just to change the size of the brush with F. So F to change the size of the brush, and you just pull out with your cursor to make it bigger, and then pull in to reduce it, and then do a single left click to confirm. You can also change the strength with Shift F. So Shift F, pull out, click, and then Shift F, pull in, click.
Okay, we get it.
Anyways, so if I was to draw on this, you can see that I'm inflating that edge. I could also inflate here, but you very quickly realize, like, look at that. Look at that. What is that, right? The eye is gonna see that. It's a pro tip. Your eye is like, if you're going low res, don't go low res for things that are round, because your eye is very
Oh
quickly
god, that
going
looks
to
awful.
spot low poly things. Actually, just last night I was playing Spider-Man, the Miles Morales one, and there was like this coffee cup that was on a table, and then you walk, and it looks fine, like as a background asset, but then part of it, the mission, you had to go up and read something on the table, and you had to get close to this coffee cup, and it was like 8 vertices. It
I
just
thought for a
looked
second
like
it was going
almost
through
looked
the
like
whole
a
donut.
nut on a wheel of a car, right? Just like that jagged.
All right, we get it. Move
So
on.
we need more information. We need more detail to sculpt on. The reason this is jagged, and the reason there's not enough detail here, is that just even though we have a subsurf modifier, a subdivision modifier, it's applying it after we do the sculpt mode. So when you're in sculpt mode, it's still just using your raw mesh here, and then it does this as a secondary step. So if we want to sculpt into this detail, we need to apply this. So I'm going to use more than one. I'm going to use 2 because I want to have even more detail. So importantly, by the way, if you're applying a subdivision modifier, even though you've got 2 levels here, it will always use just the viewport. So your render amount here could be whatever, but when you hit apply, it's just going to apply whatever is in the viewport. So I'm going to go 2 levels and hit apply. Now look at this. Whoo! We have 16 times the detail because we had level 1, which would be 4x, a 4x multiply, and then 4x of 4x, 16. So we have 16 times the vertices to play with. So now when we go into sculpt mode, look at it now. When we sculpt, look at that. So much more room to work with and much more fun. So now that I'm in that state, I'm going to just do little circles with this brush on each of these points here. And the reason I'm doing like little circles like this is that by default, the stroke state is, space. You can switch it to airbrush if you want, and then you can just click and hold it there. But I find that to actually be like harder to control. So I just keep it in space mode and then just do like little circles. And then that enables you to just kind of continue adding more pressure as you move your mouse. So a little circle like that. But anyways, another one that you use all the time is grab. And conveniently, it's the hotkey G. And what this does is just like pushing clay with your finger. It's like, it's really cool. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm actually just exaggerating the design. Because that is what makes appealing design. It's exaggerating the addition and subtraction that you see in a shape. Even though in the real world you might.
Some of what I watched last night is coming back to me. I think I fucked something up.
Because it's got this bulbous end. You want to.
What's something I don't like is if you don't click on what you're trying to click on, it'll go right through everything and start dragging shit behind it.
Yeah,
and then you get stupid stuff like that.
It can do that, and we get to learn about a new.
But we're just gonna pretend like we didn't see that.
So, yeah. All right. Pull this around. Pull this around. Just click and dragging. Click and drag.
I don't think I made any of these long enough, but that's whatever. Who cares?
And you've got more time than me, so maybe make this
no, don't hurry up.
better than what I'm doing. This now in previous versions of this tutorial, I said just use the inflate brush and then just like draw across it. The problem with this is that this is so imprecise, and you can accidentally like draw over another bit, and then you look at it side on, and you get these like noticeable like divots across the donut. And it's not very, it's very hard to do because you keep like accidentally clicking off it and then on it, and you get this like jagged, like dig. It's not very appealing. The point is, so let's go back. We can learn about another tool. It's another excuse to learn about another tool, and that tool is called the mask tool.
Way ahead of you.
It's actually in the list here, but I never remember what it is. It's just hit M for mask, and it's this one.
Although I feel like I need to make it just a little bit smaller.
If you just draw.
Oh, thank God! Photoshop brush keybinds work, because I hit it like subconsciously because brush sizes are left bracket, right bracket, and I'm so glad to see that they work. That has made me so damn happy. Though strength can come up a little bit. I love it when programs share keybinds. Rotate. Ugh. Keep going.
This grade shape, right? And then when you're using another tool, like say you switch to the inflate brush now, and if you draw over this, let me just increase this. Yeah, if you drew over this, you can see it's applying an inflation to everything extremely perfect, but fairly even across it. And I obviously don't want it to be in this part because that, you know, the liquid has flowed all the way down and it's broken the trail and it's gone down there, so I don't want any raised area there. And again, I apologize if this was like tedious, but it's a way to learn Blender piece by piece. Okay, hey, speaking of which, I forgot. With the sculpt tools in Blender, for whatever reason, it has assumed by default that you might want to sculpt on the other side of your mesh. So you can see I've got this smear here, and that's because somewhere I was painting over here, I went through the mesh and it painted on the other side of the mesh over there. Very annoying. So, I can undo it. It's just easier than like repainting that whole thing. And what you want to do with your mask tool is underneath brush, set it to front faces only. And that means when you paint, it should mean that as you draw, It could still happen. Just be careful. But it should happen less. It shouldn't happen like on the opposite side of the same mesh. Anyways, it should happen less. By the way, I didn't call it out because it's not essential, but if you do ever want to isolate and only see the selected object, / is the isolation mode. So / on the number pad or the actual normal keyboard will pull you in and out of that state. Anyway, so now with the mask brush, with front faces only enabled, I can paint along it, and it should happen less, essentially. All right, I don't know what to say, but this doesn't take long once you've set it up. And assuming you've got the strength of 1, by the way, you don't want to have areas with like half opaque, right? Because we want to have a constant value across it as we inflate it. And we should get a nice raised edge.
I'm not changing that.
Goes all the way along the donut.
So I think it'll actually be fine.
Great.
It'll probably actually be
So
better
clean
to have
up
it a
if you've
little
got
bit
any areas that
inconsistent.
look a little untidy, a little unkempt.
Fluid is very, well,
Right.
fluid. So having it a little bit imperfect is actually not going to hurt anything. In fact, it probably, oh, God. Oh, this Pendleton does not taste any better with every drink. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'm not going to try to explain it. It'll be fine.
So, as I mentioned, the mask will actually mask out the area, so you can't paint on it. We obviously want to only paint on the area that we mask, so we want to invert it by just hitting Control-I, same hotkey as Photoshop, etc. And then,
It is.
obviously, if we went to the inflate brush and then we just painted, like, yes, we're only now painting onto that area, but it also doesn't solve our problem of like different values across it. So we want to apply a uniform inflation on just these areas. So there is a tool in the sculpt tools called, where is it? Mesh Filter. So I will be honest, it's probably the laziest implementation of a tool in Blender. Like, mesh filters, they're not really well documented. You kind of have to just learn how they work. But unlike all these other brushes here, the way this one works is it's applying a uniform value to the entire mesh. So it doesn't actually matter where you click on the mesh, it's going to apply it. And it's applying what is in the filter types listed here. So if I just click, this is the other thing I have to learn. If I drag to the right, I'm inflating. If I drag to the left, I'm deflating and sort of subtracting the opposite direction. You just kind of have to learn that that's how this specific tool works. My theory is, by the way, to go on a rant, ZBrush's...
I'm not here for your
this
rants.
is a little like... It almost looks, if we go into object mode, it looks like a tube almost around the edge of it. It's not very nice. It basically, the edge that we've got here is too hard, so we can smooth out that edge by using mask, smooth mask. Okay. Now, if we use the inflate, just towards to the right a little bit, I'm just gonna go with that. Let's go object mode and see how that looks. That's pretty good. I might actually go just a little bit more, just exaggerate it slightly more. There we go. Great. So, yeah.
That looks like
roughly
shit.
it. Now, there's a little bit of artifacting there because the way the mask works is it's kind of that feathering thing. It's not very exact, and it's kind of got some values in between.
I don't want to lie.
So we can smooth that out in sculpt mode by first of all just clearing the mask and then using the smooth tool. By default, it's too high, so just turn it down. And I'm just going to smooth that edge, and that'll just sort of clear up some of this artifacting. It's a little too high. For whatever reason, the smooth tool, which also you can access at any point when you're in sculpt mode just by holding down shift, and it'll temporarily invoke the smooth tool, and it'll use the value that is on the smooth tool. So you'll be in this mode, and then you hold down shift, and it'll actually not use this value, but the
I
value.
think I actually just undid everything I was doing.
Again, ZBrush is the competitor,
By doing
so
that.
some things are a little weird here.
Hold on. We're going back. I'm bringing this up just a little bit more. Then we're going to the smooth tool. And, well, clearing mask. Wish I had like a UV heat map of what the textures are doing right now. I think I need to turn the strength down. Like dramatically. Yeah, there we go. Turn the strength down. It looks awful. Let's be real. Like, this is the worst, probably, looking donut tutorial donut to have ever donut. But it will be fine. That will do for now. Move on.
Anyways, so it's a little too high. Just turn it down, and now we've got a nice value. And I'm just smoothing this out. If you've made it this far, 3D is in the cards. This is where we finished at the end of the last part. Jumped into our render mode, that little button that I showed you on the first part that takes you into rendered view mode. You can see we've got a lamp and it's lighting our donut in a very depressing cold gray. So let's give it a material down here.
Did you follow him to a T? No. I absolutely did not, because the problem is, and I know I'm not any better. Let me just stop, because I'm literally doing it right now. He gets on tangents, and I don't have patience to sit through the tangents because it's long terms of me just sitting there, not saying anything, not doing anything, which drives me insane. And I skip past, and then I miss something. And then I just write off whatever I missed because I cannot be bothered to sit there and listen to whatever he's saying.
Little material tab, and then we're going to hit new. So just like before, the one thing we're going to change is the color. Let's make it a nice nut in a very depressing cold gray. So let's give it a material down here, the little material tab, and then we're going to hit new. So just like before, the one thing we're going to change is the color. Let's make it a nice pink color.
I've hit the color tab and it broke everything. Okay, we're back. I'm more of a chocolate guy. That looks like shit. I mean that truly looks like shit. Okay, I understand why we did pink then. Okay. Lesson learned. It's pink, and it's pink for a reason. Because the brown does not, the chocolate color does not bode well. Dude, pouring the rest of that Pendleton into this can, or this mug, was a bad idea. Ugh, fuck. Because I could feel it affecting me now. That was way more than a few shots in that one thing left.
And that looks pretty good. The other value that you typically want to change for a lot of objects is the roughness value. So you can see the further I go all the way to the left-hand side, the more it becomes a mirror. So all the way at 0 is basically a mirror. And then all the way to the right is your most porous object.
Like this kind of a glossy
donut, like that. Basically something that looks
very
like
cold
it
icing
reflection, although everything does. The roughness is just merely dissipating that reflection everywhere, so it appears as though it doesn't. But anyways, so we're going to go with like a point.
Yeah, I think I'm bypassing Tipsy a little bit. Which is about as far as I usually go. But I wanted to be rid of the bottom.
0.3, something like that. That's pretty good. And then for the base of our donut, we're going to give it another material, and let's go with a nice orangey yellow, which we will change later on, so it won't matter anyway. But that's good. Great. Look at us. We've got a donut. By the way, we'll add some subsurface SSS later on to make this look a little bit more milky, but for now this is good. Now we want to put our donut onto a marble countertop. So first of all, we need that countertop as a separate object. So Shift A, and the one we're looking for is again under mesh, and we're going to go with a plane. So a plane is just a square that's literally made up of 4 vertices. It's the simplest object, but the most versatile, that you use it all over the place. I think I'll make this look a little bit bigger. So let's just scale that out with S and then click. Okay, so we want to make our donut rest onto the countertop. So if I selected my donut base and moved it up.
Oh, I think I know. I need to go in and, first of all, Probably hide this, because I remember he said this requires logging into something. So, that was the wrong one. I'm signing up through my business account because I don't particularly want this stuff going to my personal account. Create free account, sign up. Actually, I'm going to do it to the sketchbook account. Continue. Oy. Under hobbyist. Maybe later. Okay. Go to site. Download free. Because I know he's going to require us to download a marble thing, and so I'm just going to download it now. In fact, I'm going to take this and cut it and put it in my 3D folder. Oh. Alright, there's only a little bit left in this mug, and that'll be the last of the Pendleton bottle gone. Ah, fuck. Oh my god, that was such a bad idea. Good enough, though. Good enough. And then we need to go back to the tutorial. And I need to turn it back on through OBS. And move OBS over here, because we don't need that anymore. And we can close this. Why is it taking forever to move? Is it because it's unzipped? Cancel. Okay, I'll move the zip folder into it. Okay, we're going to Art Stuff's 3D folder. Move the zipped folder into it. I don't know why it tried to open a zip folder. Extract. That was much quicker. Okay, now we can continue.
Well, there's a problem, right? We need to have both of these move together. So if you want to have one object basically attached to another object while still being its own separate object, you parent it. So the way we parent it is, first of all, you select the object that you want to follow the other object, so the child, and then you select the parent. So holding down Shift, I'm going to now click on the donut base, and then to parent, it's Control P, okay? Or again, if at any time you don't know what it is, just hit F3 for search, and then we can just type in parent. Now, by the way, with parent, you get a number of options here. The one you actually want is keep transform. If you just do object, it means if you've ever moved the object like off its base or whatever like that, it'll then like clear its position. So it's actually not the one you want most of the time. So it's keep transform. Now that I've done that, if you've done it in the correct order, you should be able to select the base and then move it, and the icing should go with it. If it doesn't, it means it's probably parented the other way. So again,
wait, how do I move it? No. What? Okay, well that's a gizmo, and it did not work. But that worked. Okay, so I did it backwards, I guess, on accident, which is fine. We'll just select it from the icing from here on out. That's fine.
make sure the object you want to follow, the other one, is selected first, and then the parent is selected last.
Well, that's not what you fucking said, you ass. You had me click on the icing first. Okay, then I want to click on the icing. Then I want to hit Control P, and then keep transform. And now if I move this, there we go. You lied to me. You made a liar out of me. My donut's got a big hole. I just now noticed. Like, my donut compared to his donut, he's got a lot tighter. We're moving on. We're not continuing this conversation.
So now I'm going to move that up along its z-axis. So G, and then just a middle tap and pull it up till it's resting on my counter. Haha, lovely. Now don't worry about this looking like cartoonishly bad in terms of realism. I'm going to show you a button later on, which is just
get
going
out
to
of my
make this
face.
look phenomenally realistic. That's going to be in some later parts. But for now, this is fine just whilst we work and piece the scene together. So for our countertop here, we need to give it a new material. And then underneath the base color, you can select not just a color by clicking the color, but the little dot next to it, that little yellow thing doesn't look like a button. It is. If you click that, you get this this pop-up or pop-down in this point, which just gives you a number of options. And the one that we're looking for is image texture. So essentially, it's replacing that import from a flat color to an image texture property. And it's now black, and it's asking you what image texture.
That's not right.
We need an image texture. Now, we could go to just Google Images and just go because I was pretty dissatisfied with render. So back into Blender where we've got that image texture, we're going to click on open. Then navigate to where you unzipped it and then just click on the one that ends with COL in the name and then just hit open. And here it is. Okay. And it looks great up close. Only problem is OL in the name and then just hit open. And here it is. Okay. And it looks
there we
great
go. Figured it out.
Only problem is, of course, look at that reflection. So bland, so fake. And as I mentioned before, fake is the enemy, and you need to squash it by just adding variance. So that's where our roughness map is going to come in. And while we could try to add it in here, this section on the right-hand side, it's actually not where you...
I think I clicked on the wrong one. So we want open... This one? What is he going on about? Okay, it's not that one. Okay, well, I guess it's this one. Oh, it is this one. I was just really confused. Whatever, we're good.
Most of your material work because this is kind of like a simplified.
No, there's a reason why we want to pick this one. It's because it's also got a UV rough map, and then we're good.
It gets a little bit complicated when you try and add too many things to it because there's like too many menus and drop downs and all that kind of stuff. So instead, if you go to your shading tab at the top of the screen there, this will change the layout of the screen to something completely different we haven't seen before.
The fuck is this?
And lots of windows, actually too many. I never actually need this one on the right hand side. So where you just mouse over where you've got the divider and then just right click and then say join areas. And then you want to join it to the left to close it. And then I'll do the same here because I've never needed those on the left hand side. So
that's a lot less problems.
View at the top here and then this one here. And the reason, by the way, this looks different than what we had before is because this is the material preview, but you can change it back to what we had before by clicking that. So material preview, by the way, it's the same. It's a rendered mode, but it's using lights, a different light setup. Basically, material never needed those on the left-hand side. So I've just got my view at the top here, and then this one here. And the reason, by the way, this looks different than what we had before is because this is the material preview, but you can change it back to what we had before by clicking that. So material preview, by the way, it's the same. It's a rendered mode, but it's using lights, a different light setup. Basically, just an HDRI, which is like a fake kind of light and reflection map, just so that you can quickly preview materials.
Let me just state for the record, comparing my donut to his in this viewport, God, we fucking suck at this. This looks like ass. This is awful. This is not a game-ready file. It's fine, though.
Really, you could use either or. They both kind of show the material, but Yeah, let's use this one. Okay, but the bit that we're looking for is here. So this section here is your node setup. And it's actually an exact duplicate of what we did over here. Because this on the right-hand side is the simplified version. If you're just doing like a quick change, you might want to use this. But over here, this is what's actually happening to it underneath the hood, right? So you can see as I change this on the right-hand side, that is also changing there. So they are linked. So the way nodes work is basically a left to right function. So we start over here with our image texture. It goes into our shader, which is the material.
Okay, I'm actually kind of familiar with this because this is exactly the way that the Fusion tab in DaVinci Resolve works. Like, obviously, DaVinci Resolve is for video editing, but they have a tab in DaVinci Resolve that works exactly the same way, where you have these nodes that you connect together to get really cool video effects. And so I actually do have a little bit of familiarity with this, not a lot. I mean, obviously none with Blender, but I kind of understand how this works, so this is actually really neat.
Or this plane, and then it comes out into a material output, and that's what is fed into the final shader. So essentially we could do anything, like for example, and this is one of the value of nodes, is between these two nodes we could add another node. Like for example, I could hit Shift A to add, again, same hotkey, works everywhere, and then I could add in like a hue saturation value node, and then I could change the hue of my marble to look blue, right, or something else. So that's the power of nodes, and you could just keep going, adding in adjustments and everything you want. So nodes, very, very flexible. They do look daunting because they get all these like, you know, squid looking.
Oh, it doesn't actually, that's not a requirement. Never mind.
But it's
Get rid of that.
very, very convenient, very customizable. Okay, but we want to add something to our roughness so that we don't have a flat single value roughness, which is what that is currently. We want to use that map that we just downloaded. So one, you could hit Shift A and then add an image text this way, but actually we could also just drag out from that input there and then just do a release, and it'll now say, what do you want to add in this input? And we could type in image texture, color, and then hit enter. Then here, go to that same place that we unzipped it, and then we're looking for the one with roughness in the name. So roughness in the name, and then hit open. Okay, so this is better, right? You can kind of see we've got some detail there, but it doesn't look quite right. Something is not going right. It's because when you add an image texture, Blender doesn't really know what type of information it is yet, and by default, it's looking at the color information, even though there isn't really color there.
I mean, it looks good to me.
We need to tell Blender this is a special map, and we're just looking at the values, right? So essentially, the color space here, we need to change it from sRGB, where it's a standard photo color, to instead non-color data, or just non-color, I guess they've changed it. But now you can see that looks correct, right? So look at all that. We got scratches, we got smudges. It's infinitely more realistic than what we had previously. So beyond that though, we could also add in little tiny bumps, okay? So bumps are in a place you would not expect. There's not a bump value here. It's actually under normal. So normal, you hear that word a lot in 3D. It just basically means the face, which direction is the face pointing, right? So if this is your face of the plane, you're pointing this way, that's
I'm
the
guessing
normal,
it's subsurface.
right? But you can change the normal information to kind of tweak it to pretend like there is detail in that, okay? Essentially, we can plug in a specialized map called a normal map. Okay, so we're going to drag out from the normal map and then release,
so wrong.
and then image texture. That's the last use thing. That's the one we want. I'm just going to click color, then drop, and then hit open. Go to that same folder, and then this is the one, the purple one. It's the weirdest looking map. You always know you're looking at a CG texture map directory because it's the purple one, and it's got NRM in the name for normal. And hit open. And just like before, it's not going to be correct because it thinks this is a color image texture, just like for photos. So we need to change it again to non-color data. And now you would think that would fix it, but no, it looks even worse. What did we do? The problem is we need to convert this image texture into something this can read. So we need to put another node in between here. So the node is found under Shift A for add, then vector normal map. So click and then just drop it here. So
Whoa. Slow down. Vector normal map. Okay.
put highlights between it and then just drop it. and it will now finally be correct. And if I go full screen with control space, I didn't mention be correct. And if I go full screen with highlights between it and then just drop it, and it will now finally be correct. And if I go full screen with control space, I didn't mention that before, but yeah, control space, and then you can go full screen, and you can see we've got very subtle little chips and divots across the texture along with those smudges, and it just looks way more believable. It means you don't have to worry about this part of your scene. It's just going to work, and you're going to get all that detail for free, and just makes life a little bit easier. But it is a lot of work.
Nice. I like that.
What you've just made is a PBR shader, and yeah, it's a lot of work. All those little maps and everything, and having to know which setting is which.
Cranking all of that fucking Pendleton was such a bad idea. I'm losing focus. No, we gotta stay strong. We gotta finish the donut.
Thing to learn, so that's why I wanted to include it in here. If I could plug my own website again, though, I will say we did hear you, because a lot of people say that. So we actually made an add-on called the Polygon add-on, which I'll actually show you how to install later on, because that is actually important for 3D, because you use a lot of add-ons. But to plug it very quickly, it actually does all of that without you having to leave Blender. So it'll download the texture for you. There we go. See, it's downloading. It's actually faster through the add-on. And then once you've got it, you just hit apply, and then it will do all of that node work for you in the background, and it'll just apply it to the mesh for you. So you don't have to do all that all the time. And in fact, most people, I think, if you're working on big scenes, you're using libraries, you're using add-ons like this, so you don't have to do it all manually all the time. But it is important to know the process, so that's why I wanted to show it. But anyways, this was our material, and we are happy with it. Well done. Let's go back to the layout tab. And now we're going to do one more thing, and we are happy with it. Well done. Let's go.
Wait, how do you go back to the layout tab? Here, never mind. Got it.
Back to the layout tab, and now we're going to do one more thing. So you see our donut base here. Let's just isolate this donut for one moment here by hitting /, which I mentioned previously. Okay, when you're in /, this is isolate mode, which means it's literally turning off everything, including the lamp, which is why it's dark. But if you turn on material preview, then you get this. So this is okay. But if you look at real references of donuts, you'll see that it's typically whiter around the middle. And the reason for that is, as I mentioned before, the way it cooks, right? It's only like half submerged and then it's flipped. And it means that the bits that are closest to the surface are cooked less. So there's usually like a whiter part around the rim. And I mean, really, this is just an excuse to show you another part of Blender, which is texture paint. So at the top there, click the texture paint tab. And again, let's go into isolate mode with our donut there. Why are we not seeing? Okay, there we go. So what texture paint does is it lets you paint directly on.
Why is my donut suddenly? Okay, I had the wrong thing selected. We're good. Never mind.
But if we try doing it, you can see nothing's happening. And it does give you a warning at the bottom, missing textures detected. So to paint, you're painting into an image, and the image doesn't exist yet.
Hi, Nutters.
So we have to give it one.
Hi, Nutters. Hi. Hi. You're pressing buttons on my keyboard. Hi. You just made me skip half the video. Hi.
Lets you paint directly onto your mesh. But if we try doing it, you can see nothing's happening. And it does give you a warning at the bottom, missing textures detected. So to paint, you're painting into an image, and the image doesn't exist yet. So we have to give it one. So go to the material tab, and then here where we got base color.
Material tab.
We set it up as yellow, but we're actually just going to override it now. So click that little yellow dot again, and then say image texture. So now it's black, doesn't have an image. So, and instead of clicking open, we're going to click new. So we're going to be creating a brand new image, and let's call this donut base. We could make this higher res if we want.
Caps lock on.
Don't. This is more than enough for a donut base. That's fine. And this will just save us time. The color. This will just fill the. It'll fill the image for us with a flat color. So we're just going to go for something pretty similar to what we had before, a nice yellow. And this will just save us time. The color. This will just fill for a donut base. That's fine. And
I clicked on it too fast.
Color. This will.
And there was. Okay, so image texture, new, color, donut base. Okay.
Just fill the it'll fill the image for us with a flat color. So we're just going to go for something pretty similar to what we had before, a nice yellowy color like that. And by the way, make sure you're all the way bright, otherwise your donut is going to be a little bit dark. So yeah, there we go. All right, and then hit OK. And once we've done that, you should, I mean, it should be over there on the left-hand side, but if it doesn't pop up, you can just select it from the drop-down donut base.
Oh, God.
And there we go. So now we're in this state. Look what I can do. Ooh, fancy. So, I don't know why I said it like that. But we can paint directly onto our...
Okay.
mesh. So to understand this, because it's kind of weird, you can also paint directly over here, and you might be thinking like, well, how does it know, like, how do I know which part over here is actually going to be painted over onto the donut there? You might not care, but it's actually good to understand how it works. So basically this mesh here, it has to be unwrapped over onto this left-hand side here, because that's the only way to
UV map.
2D
This I know.
texture, 2D flat image be applied to a mesh is to unwrap it in some way. I mean, there's projection. I'm not getting into that. To unwrap it. And unwrapping is essentially like, there is a meme actually that explains it. But if you have like a chocolate, right, that is wrapped in some tinfoil, if you flatten it out, that is essentially UV unwrapping. There are little places in that wrapping where there had to be a cut, right? And then that cut was wrapped around the object. That's what UV unwrapping is. So the reason this works for us is because the cuts are actually already in place for default objects. So this torus is already perfectly UV unwrapped, so we don't have to do anything. I did want to mention it though, because it's important to understand UV unwrapping. Anyways, so we could actually paint directly on here, as I mentioned. White is a little bit too extreme though. So I'm going to click that and choose a color. First of all, I'm going to select the eyedropper and then not click over here because that's got shading information. I'm going to click on the left-hand side.
I just learned.
The exact color. And then I'm going to make it closer to white. So not fully white because that'll be too far, but closer to white. And I'm also going to change the strength of my brush. Yeah, I'll make about halfway. And then now I can do paints across it. And this will enable you to get a much more natural feel. Because you'll have, just like, in fact, I might even go a little bit softer, and that way you can kind of just paint across it. And this is very forgiving because we've got icing that's going to go over the top of it, but that's good. We don't want it to be too
The
extreme.
problem is,
Let's just make it.
the strength is opacity, though. It's flow and opacity. So, and you draw here, I'm sure he's going to address this, but in case he doesn't, you draw here, it's only 49% opacity, and then you draw here, that's 49% opacity. This is closer to 90 in here, because it's overlapping. So that's not correct.
Make this a little bit more saturated. Anyways, that's basically all we need to do. We just want to...
No, that's... No. Even I will say this is wrong. There's got to be a better way to do that. Because when you lower the strength, you're just lowering the opacity. If this overlaps at all, then you're going to get spots where it's more white than the rest of it. There's got to be a way to do it in here where these are going to line up. Because I don't like that. Because see, if I do it like that, these are going to not line up because this is not perfectly straight. In fact, it seems like it's exaggerated. No. Not happy with it. But I guess the queen desires it, so we'll just do it the way he says. What we're going to do, though, we're going to try to the best of our ability to not make these surfaces overlap. So that way, yeah.
Just dab our toes into the field of texture painting. I would say texture painting, by the way, it's one of the weaker areas of Blender. It's actually due for an update at some point in the future.
Well, that's why you do it in Photoshop.
Like,
That's why, okay. That's why you take the UV map with the mesh and you port it into Photoshop. Because you, or any other photo editing program, is that way you can do it more precisely. Because I hate this. This looks like shit. I guess we could do something like this where it's kind of like inconsistent to make up for the random white spots. Let's see if we can kind of like fill that in to make it. Yeah, I kind of like that a lot more. But see, even then, I went too far and it fucking... Not a fan. Not a fan. But we'll ignore it for now. The reason for drawing on the model rather than the wrap texture is like because of the mapping issues at the end. Well, yeah. But... I could fix that if there was like a pen tool. Smear, soften, fill, mask, annotate. Annotate? That did nothing for me. No. Go away. You know, we're gonna say that's good. I don't like that particularly, but we're gonna say that is good. Now, I'm gonna go even a little bit harder here. Cook the bottom of this a little bit. Go the extra mile, right? Top of these things are usually cooked more than the bottom. Yeah, that actually looks good.
Can't paint into like the height information or the roughness information at the same time like you can with Substance Painter, but it's got basic functionality. Now, importantly, this is an image, but it's not saved into your blend file. It still needs to be manually saved. So see at the top left-hand corner there, it's got image with a star. If you see that star, it means you've got changes that haven't been saved. So we need to go image and then save and specify where are we going to put our image. Because if we don't do this, we're going to lose it. So it has to be saved somewhere. So I'm just going to save it, yeah, anywhere. It has to be saved somewhere because it will not be saved as part of the blend file. Very important to know that. Otherwise, you can lose texture paint work that you've done.
Actually, how is he getting the grid in his? Notice this has got a grid going on? I don't know if you can because it's in the corner. But I would like the grid to show up in mine. Whatever. We're fine.
But there we go. So now to bring back everything, remember if it looks like, where's the rest of my scene gone? See the top left-hand corner? Local means it's isolated mode. So that means you just have to hit / again, and it brings back everything. And there we are. So that's the extent of this part of the tutorial. As I mentioned, some of you might be wondering, when are we going to make that lovely subsurface scattering. We're going to do that in the future after we do the sprinkles because it's too hard. The time has finally come to decorate our delicious looking donut with some sprinkles. So the feature we need for that is called geometry
He got quieter.
nodes, and you can access it by going to the top of your screen. If you don't see it, just middle mouse drag across and you'll see the tab geometry nodes. Ooh. So it's adjusted your screen layout. Don't get disorientated. Your donut is still there. This screen on the left here, it's called the spreadsheet. Never needed it. Touch on wood, never will. So we can just close that, right click, join areas, and then just collapse it into it. Okay, so with your icing selected, click the new button. So welcome to the world of geometry nodes. So geometry nodes is actually a modifier. So when we hit new there, we've added in a modifier called geometry nodes. And what the modifier is doing is whatever we want it to, okay? So what this section down here is, this is a node-based system and it looks familiar, right? You got boxes with little lines and it's the exact same type of system that was used in our materials, right? But it's a completely different system, okay? So the same nodes will not be referenced between the completely different systems. So the way this works is our mesh that we've got here of our icing is what is being represented on the left-hand side with your input. It's then taking that mesh and it's feeding it all the way to the right, and it's gonna spit out whatever is in your group output. So currently, nothing has changed because there's nothing between those points. But if I was, for example, don't follow me, but just as an example, if I was to add a set position node, drop this in here, and then change the position of the icing along the Z axis, you can see it's raised it. Okay, now the mesh, if I go into edit mode, is still there. The mesh has not changed. So we're not actually moving the object. This is just happening after the fact via a modifier, okay? Now, obviously this would be a rather pointless use for geometry nodes to move it because you could just move it. But as an example, let's say, I don't know, you had a scene where lots of objects, some of them are raised, some of them are not, and you wanted to quickly change them. What you could do with geometry nodes, in this case, you could actually expose this offset value by dragging it to the left over here. And when you do that, you can see it's now appeared over here in our modifier stack. What that means is whenever I'm in another part of Blender, say I'm like building stuff, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I need to quickly, change the height of that icing, I've got it there whenever I need to. So essentially, this system enables you to build up your own tool that does something that you want it to do in a really flexible way. So it's really powerful. And before geometry nodes, I mean, Blender was kind of limited in what you can do, but I'll throw some examples here. But in the last 2 years since it's been in Blender, people have done some wild stuff with it. And most of this stuff really was just not possible in Blender before without doing custom scripting. So it's really opened up the doors. So it is a very different system, like it's a different way of working than just hands-on in 3D, but it's a really flexible, really valuable system. So any time spent learning geometry nodes, I think, is time well spent. So we want to do sprinkles, and to do that we need to first of all scatter some points onto our mesh. So to do that, hit Shift A for add, and then we're looking for point, distribute points on faces. Okay.
Whoa, slow down.
Points onto our mesh. So to do that, hit Shift A for add, and then we're looking for point, distribute points on faces. Okay. And then it's just it's just going to put you in a placement state. And if you just mouse over that line there till it lights up, if you click, it's going to automatically connect it for you. And now you can see we've got points on our icing and a density value. Great. But you might notice the icing has actually disappeared. Ooh. Now the reason for that is we've told it, okay, take that icing object and convert it into points and then just give us the points back. Okay, so what we need to do is say, yes, we want the points, but we also want the original mesh. So we can do that by adding in a node that you use all the time, which is Shift A, Geometry, Join Geometry. So you'll find this node in probably any geometry nodes tutorial. Very versatile. So drop it in here after the points, and you'll notice this input here is a different shape. So normally inputs are circles or triangles or whatnot. This one is a long and elongated shape to signify that it can accept multiple inputs. So unlike these where you can only accept one, this can accept many. So what we need to do is take the output of our original mesh and then feed it over to here. And now we have both the original mesh and we have our points, and they're being combined together and then put into our output. Okay, very cool, awesome. All right, so if we were to give this a render right now, you would actually see nothing because these points don't physically exist. They just exist in the 3D space. If we want them to show up in the render, we have to tell it, what do you want to render them as? So for that, we need to add an object to be our sprinkle. So your sprinkle could be whatever you want. We're actually gonna make two different types of sprinkles in this donut series. So we're gonna start though with a very simple one, just a round ball. So just like you would add another object normally, Shift A, and then go mesh, and then go UV sphere. Now,
Yeah.
this sphere is going to be referenced for every single sprinkle. Okay, so we want to go as low res as we can get away with. So I'm going to go with 12 segments and then 8 rings. If you're on a really slow computer and you think this is really going to suffer later on, you could go even lower, but I don't want to go too low because otherwise we're going to see that jagged edge because it's a rounded form. So I don't want to go too much lower than that. But I do want to adjust the scale because obviously this needs to be a tiny little sprinkle. So let's go 0.01. Okay, awesome. All right, now with our icing selected again, you'll notice by the way that if you click another object, you don't see your nodes because it's only going to show you the active object's geometry nodes. So if you want the nodes to just be there.
I think 0.01 is actually too small for us. I think we were in the incorrect scale. I think we want to be like 0.04.
Too much lower than that. But I do want to adjust the scale because obviously this needs to be a tiny little sprinkle. So let's go 0.01. Okay, awesome. All right, now with our icing selected again, you'll notice by the way that if you click another object, you don't see your nodes because it's only going to show you the active object's geometry nodes. So if you want the nodes to just be there no matter what, if you click the pin button there, that means no matter what is selected, it's only going to be showing you this object's, the one that we pinned, geometry nodes. Okay. All right. So to reference, we need to reference that little sphere that we've just created in our geometry node system. And you can do it very easily just by dragging down from your outliner up here, just dragging it down into your geometry nodes and dropping it. Okay. So now let's just create some room here. Make a little bit of space. Okay. And what I need to do is add another node to reference this object. And the node is Shift A, instances, instances on points, the top one. Okay. And then I want to drop it in here between distribute points on faces and my join geometry. So drop it in right there till it lights up. Now the points have disappeared because we're now saying replace those points with whatever is in that instance input. So I'm going to take my geometry from my object info and drag it into the instance. And look at that. We have got our spheres appearing all over it. And if I increase the density, we've got sprinkles. And if I do a render, it will actually display. Doesn't look very good, hey, but it does work, which is the main thing right now. Okay, so first things first, you'll notice that as we increase the density, first problem is that they're crowding each other. They are straight up overlapping each other with no respect for its fellow sprinkle, right? Because it's just a random distribution. So we can change that by going here in our distribute points on.
Hold on. Time out. Okay. We want to delete that and bring the sphere back because I actually did make it way too big. If we do that, then geometry, then instance, it's still too big. Okay, we'll find that.
Faces, change it from random distribution to Poisson disk distribution. Poisson, what a name. So it's changed, but that's just because it's changed your density max, so just increase it again. With this Poisson disk distribution, you get this extra value here, distance min. So now if we can set a low value, we can start to delete. It's almost like each one of those points now is going to have a little radius around it. And if it detects a point within that radius, it's going to delete it. So we just need to increase it slowly, very, very slowly, until we can't see them intersecting anymore. To about there, honestly. If you go too high, like if you really wanted to make sure they weren't touching, you go really high, but it starts to look like too evenly spaced, you know? Like, yeah, it's not actually registering the other objects. It's like, it's just doing this little radius thing, which just happens to be perfect for a ball-shaped object, but it's not like an advanced, like it's going to try to fill in all the gaps for you. So,
excuse me.
yeah, you just kind of, I usually set it to like a little bit of clipping is okay, but I don't want there to be too much. But let's go, yeah, something, I don't know, something like that. We'll actually adjust this later on. I'm just doing it just for this point. All right, a much bigger problem, if I hit Control Tab to go full screen here, if I look at my mesh, I've got sprinkles everywhere. And in fact, I've actually got sprinkles underneath the icing. And that's not good, because it's actually going to put that in the render. Even though you won't see it, your computer is going to...
Okay. Well, I want to back this up again. In fact, we're going to just do this, okay? We're going to move this in. And then do shift A, instances on points. Oh, fuck. Which one was it? Why is it so big? Why can't I not change the scale? Certainly not that. Ah! So if I do this, like, 0.5. Actually, whoa, hold on. Do that to there. Yeah! There we go. I'm learning things without even needing him to help me out. Like, we're good. Okay, anyways.
use resources to render little individual balls underneath the icing, which is not what we want, obviously. So, going back here, what we need to do to fix this is we need to do weight painting, okay? It's not texture painting, it's a special thing called weight painting. So with your icing selected, if you go from your object mode, you'll see one there called weight paint. Now, your mesh will become blue, and weight paint is actually referenced in multiple parts of Blender. Like if you're doing rigging and animation, you would use weight painting a lot during the rigging step to assign values to certain bones. Essentially what it's doing is it's allowing you to paint a value between 0 and 1 onto any part of the mesh, and then reference that however you want. So we can then reference that weight paint mask in our geometry nodes and use this almost as, well, exactly as a mask for our sprinkles. So if we just do some paint right here on it, you'll see that we have some colors, right? Now these colors aren't going to appear in the render. It's just for you to visualize those values. The blue value means a value of 0, and the red value is a 0 of 1. I believe actually in maybe not the next version of Blender, but maybe the version, I don't know, but they're planning to change the colors of this. So depending on the value, on how late watching this you are, your colors might be different here, but it should be the same. Essentially, you should have a brush of 1, and you should be able to paint from 0, which would give a blue value in this case, to a value of 1. So whatever is 1, whatever is red, is where our sprinkles will go. But you'll notice that this is not having any effect, okay? So we need to reference it. Now, that weight paint that we just did is actually, if we go to our data tab here, it's actually a vertex group, okay? So that's where that paint went. So you could actually create multiple weight paint types just by like creating them here. But we've just created one and it's added one here for us. So we can give it a name by double clicking it, and let's call it Sprinkle Mask, okay? In fact, is it a mask? It's more of a density, sprinkle density, I guess, because it's not a masking out. Anyway, all right, sprinkle density. Okay, and where I want to reference this in my geometry node stack is in the distribute points on faces. There is one value here called density factor, which we got when we used the Poisson disk thing. And this is just a value of 0 to 1. Very convenient. So if I drag out from here and then release, I can add in a new node and it'll just automatically connect it. And the node that you're looking for is called the named attribute. Don't feel bad if you're like, well, how would I know that it's called the named attribute? Because it's called vertex groups over here. You think like, okay, I'm going to type in vertex group, but it's an attribute, but it's one of many attributes, and geometry nodes can do many things, so it's just called the named attribute. So anyways, all right, so underneath name, we're just going to click that box and you'll get a pop-up or pop-down, and you're looking for sprinkle density. And there it is, haha. So now going back into waypaint mode, we can act like an artist and put the sprinkles wherever we want, sprinkles on our donut, which is really cool. So sprinkles are typically, they're like on a plate, and then the wet donut with icing on it is just like dabbed onto it. So you get like a heavy amount of sprinkles right on the top like that, and then less around the sides. And then I usually do like a few like dabs like this, just for some variance. And then also if you hold down Control, that will do so the weight that's being painted is 1, but if I hold down Control, it's going to do a negative value. And I can adjust my strength there as well, and I can just do some negative paints across it. Maybe a couple here as well. And I'm trying to deliberately make it look choppy, because I find that if you make it look too like uniform, then it just looks very boring and artificial. Because the real world would have more sprinkles collecting in certain areas than others, right? Maybe it's just like wetter on that part, right? So more would stick to it, or more force was put on that part of the plate as the donut was dabbed into it, right? You just kind of have to think of this stuff, because in the digital world, it's far too easy to make something that looks predictable and boring, and we don't want that. But there we go, something like that. And you could obviously finesse it and make it better than what it is, but that's what we've got. You'll notice each of these spheres have a very jagged looking shape, and that's because the sphere itself down here. Oh, I don't think I mentioned this. If you want to quickly zoom to an object without having to find it and pan around, number pad period key. Probably should have mentioned that before. But haven't really needed it because we have not worked with that many objects, but that'll focus to that object. If you're on a laptop, by the way, if you hold down the tilde key, that'll bring up this section here, and then you've got view selected right there. So tilde is that key underneath your escape key. But anyways, so this is what our sphere looks like. So right click, shade smooth, and now all those sprinkles have a shade smooth. Haha, very nice.
Nice.
All right, now let me just show you a quick little issue that you might run into. If you were to duplicate your donut and create 2, and then on the second donut, you're like, hey, I want to have some spice in my scene. I don't want to have the exact same count of sprinkles across both donuts. Let's give a different value to this one over here. Well, you can see that they are now sharing the same value because this node group here is being linked across both objects. But if you wanted, I mean, you could make it its own single object so they're not linked. But if you wanted everything else to remain the same, so that let's say you change the sprinkle at some point, that's preserved across it. But that one value you want to be different across multiple objects, you can expose it. So just like what I did at the start, if I drag out from the value I want to expose, and then I put it up to here in my group input, the empty slot, if I just release it, it's now disappeared, the value's disappeared that it makes it more accessible. So in a completely different part of Blender, I'm working on my scene and I'm just very quickly giving different sprinkle amounts to different donuts, right? Like a madman, right? No one can stop me. But yeah, very cool. And that's now exposed. Oh, the other thing we probably want to do though, with that this group input here, is I want to give it a different name because density max, not really that useful. I can call it sprinkle density, right? So now it's like a fully customized little node group that I could drop on any object. I could be building a car in the future and I'm like, it needs sprinkles. And I can just drop this on it and I've got a sprinkle density value for my car. Geometry knows, but this entire time, for all these videos, we've been building a donut which is too big. So if you hit N in your properties, oh, that's the polygon thing, you can see the size, the dimensions of your donut is 1.2 by 1.2 meters, which...
Fuck, mine's 15 meters. We have a massive, massive donut. 14.2 meters. What is that in... That's 45 feet. This is a 45-foot wide donut. Whoops. We are not to scale. Even fucking remotely. But hey, this is actually coming out like genuinely good, despite the mesh issues we had earlier. This is actually coming out really, really, really good. Anyways.
Americans, oh, actually, yeah, you can change it. You could change your units to the wacky Imperial one.
Oh. 46.5 foot. Nice.
Yeah, 4 feet, right? Okay. Which is way too big. Okay. Now, why does it matter, right? Because, like, okay, if you're looking at this, how are you to actually know that this is 1.2 meters rather than the regular size donut? It doesn't actually matter yet, but when we get to like rendering with depth of field, or maybe you want to import other objects from other scenes, having a value that is actually true to the object will save you so much time, and it'll also make it so that your camera settings, etc., are actually correct. So that bit is very important. So essentially, we should resize this.
Okay, it was actually including the width of the platform. However, despite that, clicking on just the donut is still 10 foot fucking wide. This is a 10-foot donut. That's still taller than me. That's taller. That's longer than the van.
And really, a real donut is about 12 centimeters, which is exactly 1/10 of what we've got right here. So if we select everything in the entire scene, which you can do by just hitting A for everything, I don't know, A for all, yeah, that makes more sense, okay. Then if we hit S to scale, okay, we're now in a scale, oh actually, okay, well now it's going to scale it and the plane is going to be off the ground, okay. All right, well, let's not.
I've hit an incorrect button.
So everything else, selecting the donut, the lamp, the donut, the plane, and the sphere. Then S, and then I want to scale it by exactly 10%. Now, how could I do that? Well, if you look,
How wide is a normal donut? In inches. Okay, what is 10 centimeters to inches? That should be 10 centimeters. What is it? 2.4 centimeters is to 1 inch. So 10 divided by 2.4 is 4 point. No. That was close. 3.9 inches. So we want to scale this donut down from 10.4 to 3.9. That means we want to... I don't like how this is scaling to over here. Hold on.
hit S to scale. Okay, we're now in a scale. Oh, actually, okay. Well, now it's going to scale it, and the plane is going to be off the ground. Okay. All right. Well, let's not scale the lamp and the camera. So everything else, selecting the donut, the lamp, the donut, the plane, and the sphere. Then S, and then I want to scale it by exactly 10%. Now, how could I do that?
Whoa, hold on. Okay, so I want to click that, that, and that. And Okay, so 3.9, that is 1/3 of a foot. 1/3 is 0.33. This is apparently a donut to scale. My sprinkles have fucking disappeared. And I think I know why. So if I go do icing and then we want to go to geometry nodes and we want to actually get rid of the scale. Undo the scale. No. How do I unlink things? Now hold on. Why can I not click on the link itself? There we go. That's gonna screw up this, but we can scale them manually. I think. Oh, dude, this has broken so many things.
Well, if you look in the top left-hand corner, you've got the values there. And if I went to 0.1, then it would be exactly 1/10 of what it was. But how can I get it exactly at 0.1? Well, two things. One, if you hold down Control, when you're moving any value in Blender, it'll move it in increments, which in this case is 0.1. But you can also actually just type in the exact value you want, 0.1, and hit Enter. And now, if we look at the size of our donut, click N, hit N, you can see it's 0.12 meters or centimeters, you know. Anyway, and that's great. But there is a problem. What you might notice, I mean, there's not a problem now, but when you change the scale or the rotation of an object, actually, it's only changed its what do you call it? Its local scale. It hasn't actually applied it on a global level yet. So the sprinkle here and the donut have actually got a like pretend value. The scale is set at 0.2, and it's almost like it's saying to the scene, that's not its real scale. It's just been faked to be that size yet. It needs to be applied if you want to like confirm really that this is the true scale or rotation of the thing. And you do that by selecting the things and then hitting Control A and then applying scale. Okay, so now we've done that, we can see something's changed. So our donut here with the sprinkles has now massively changed A and then applying real scale. It's just been faked to be that size yet. It needs to be applied if you want to like confirm really that this is the true scale or rotation of the thing. And you do that by selecting the things and then hitting Control A and then applying scale. Okay, so now we've done that, we can see something's changed. So our donut here with the sprinkles has now massively changed its density count. And the reason for this is that, if we go geometry nodes again, let's zoom in here. Let's look at it with this. This density, this sprinkle density, is actually not the count of sprinkles at all. It's the density in relation to the whole scene. And the way I think of it is like, okay, it's a weird visualization, but if you've got a car and it's driving along a highway, right, a certain amount of bugs are going to hit the windshield, okay? And the bugs could be defined by here. But the smaller the object is, right, you could have the same amount of bugs going across the highway, but if it was like a tiny Matchbox car, there's going to be very few bugs that's going to hit it, okay? So the density is kind of like the density of the world, and now that we've made the object smaller, there's only 3 sprinkles left. There's only 3 bugs that's hit the windshield of our donut here. So this value now needs to be much bigger. In fact, it needs to be exactly like if it was 6,000 before, it needs to be, yeah, 60,000 now. But the problem is that it's not just a value here. The distance min value has also changed because this is also based on a real world value. So this now needs to be really small. So let's try 0.01. And that's actually pretty good, I think. There's a little bit of overlap, but that's roughly kind of what we want. And let's see if I can increase this. Yeah, so if I want this density to be really dense, yeah, I would have to increase it to a crazy number.
I think we've done something wrong at some point, but that doesn't matter. Like, I think we've done something horribly, horribly wrong. And I don't know if it's the disconnect between metric and imperial. But it'll be fine. I think. I hope, at least. It looks fine. It looks fine. We're just going to ignore the fact that he's got more sprinkles. We've got sprinkles too, and they're just little white balls.
Now, something I like to do personally, this isn't, you have to do this, but you notice how like this number is really large. And if I want to increase or lower my sprinkle value, and I'm in a different part of Blender, if I'm just dragging this value, it's having no effect because the range, like the scale of it is just so large. So what I actually do is I set it to a value that I think makes sense, which in this case is 200. And then whatever the value was before, it was 200,000, right? I do a math value inside of my geometry node setup. Between here and here, I do a math calculation to multiply that by the value that it needs to be, almost as like a scale adjustment. So you can do it with just one node, Shift A, Utilities, Math.
I'm not doing this.
And just drop it in here. Now the math, so now
moving on to the next one.
Round sprinkles. Why not long sprinkles? It'll be more interesting and it'll enable us to learn some new techniques about Blender, which is what this whole series is about. So first things first, we need to model those sprinkles. So let's move to the left here and we want to add an object. We haven't mentioned it before, but when you add an object, it's going to put it at your 3D cursor. And your 3D cursor is that thing. That weird little thing, little crosshair at the bottom there. That's your 3D cursor. And yeah, I don't know, Blender has a 3D cursor, maybe other applications don't. It's going to put it there. And if you don't want it there, you can move that 3D cursor somewhere else by hitting Shift and right-clicking. And you can see it's now moved it and actually attached it to the plane, which is where we would want it. If you don't have a mouse, do get a mouse. But in the interim, you can also use the cursor tool and that'll do the same thing. All right, so we're adding long sprinkles. So obviously the object that we want to add is Shift A, Mesh. It's the cylinder. Okay, too big by default. So let's click this little thing, bring this up, change the radius all the way to its lowest and the depth all the way to its lowest as well. And the vertices, that's the like the resolution, right? Oh, we'll fix that in a sec. The resolution would be way too high at 32 to be scattered on an object. So let's set this to 12, and that'll be just enough that it won't look jagged and it'll look smooth.
Hold on. We're going to call that good, because I think he's going to have us model it in.
So tab into edit mode, S, scale it, Z along the Z.
Okay. Good. We're going to go to edit mode, S. Yeah. Oh, it's fucking huge.
Axes to elongate it, and now we've got the rough length of a sprinkle. But how long is a sprinkle? There's no actual answer to that. If you look at reference, they are all over the place. The government evidently never stepped in and said, like, we're going to regulate it. This is the length of a sprinkle. This is the size of a sprinkle. I mean, it's the Wild West out there. They're doing crazy things. So what that means as artists is we get to pick whatever is most visually pleasing. And I like the ones which are more readable. And to show you what I mean, if we pull up 2, right? This one on the left is like large sprinkles, right? Very like bold. And then one on the right here is like long, thin, wispy ones that look like they'd get stuck in your teeth. And if we zoom out on this and then zoom out on this, you can see that the ones on the right tend to kind of like, the colors and everything just kind of blur together and it just looks like a donut. Whereas the one on the left, the sprinkles are still readable. So that's what we mean by readable, and that's the one I like the most. So we're gonna go with some larger looking long sprinkles, but you can see that the sizes, there's no standard size because I think it's actually like it's from a piping bag, at least if you make them at home, but you can just pipe out icing and then when it dries, you just smash it up and it becomes sprinkles. But yeah, they just come out at any odd size. So we got long ones, we got medium ones, we got short ones, and we've even got some curvy looking ones, right? These little like just slightly bent-ish looking ones. So we're gonna model small, medium, large, and a bent-ish looking one, and then we're gonna scatter that across the object. So back in Blender, this is going to be, yeah, this will be the short one, okay? But the end, speaking of which, this end bit here, it's a very sharp edge. And even if we hit shade smooth, it's not gonna solve it. We want that like a rounded form to it, not this horrible blobby looking shape. Because the reference, again, you can see, oh, it's a different reference now, is a rounded shape, all right? So to create that rounded form, we're gonna create...
Wait, why can't I not get above the fucking... There we go.
A bevel. And so I want you to go into face select mode.
Okay, so we need to go to edit mode and then face select.
Okay, which you can do by that. So this is the faces, right? This is the edges if you go to edge select mode, and then this is the face there. So select the bottom and the top face like that, and then we're gonna add...
Why is my thing acting so weird? I can't move properly all of a sudden. You know what? Hide the plane. It's in the way. Fuck. I just want one fucking face selected. God. There we go.
Add a bevel, which will immediately become clear when you do it. Control B. And now that we're in this state, as we pull out, we can change the amount of the bevel. And this is, you can see it's like, yeah, it's just adding a 45-degree angle on that corner there. But if you scroll up, it's going to add another level to it. And if you scroll up again, it's going to add another level to that. So we can very quickly create a rounded edge to the sprinkle. You don't want to go too much high because, again, this is going to be scattered all over the donut. You don't want to go too high poly. So that'll do. So that's a simple bevel operation, and it's very common when you're modeling. So yeah, Control B is how you do that. All right, so look at that. We've got one sprinkle. So now we will need to create 3 more. So this is the small. So let's go Shift D and then X to just move it along the X axis.
We're just gonna plan ahead.
Axes. This is going to be the medium one. So edit mode, and I'm going to go into toggle wireframe and vertice select mode. And now selecting the top part of the sprinkle, hit G, Z.
Yeah.
And I'm going to move, oops, if you've got proportional editing, turn that off. G, Z, move that up. Okay, that'll be the medium one. Yep. And now Shift D, X, move it along. This is going to be the long one. So edit mode. And again, G, Z, move it up. And this is going to be the long sprinkle. I don't go too long, maybe that long. Okay. And then I want to make a bent sprinkle that's slightly like curved. So Shift D, X, move it across. And now with this one, if I was to try to like curve this out, there's not enough information here. Like if I move that, it's just a straight edge there. So if I want to make it curved, I got to have more geometry there. So like we've done in the past, Control R is how you create a loop cut. So when you do that, it says, where do you want to put it? I want more than one though. So I'm going to scroll up till I get, just a bunch of loops until I get what looks like square faces on those points, somewhere around that. I don't want to go too high poly. Yeah, like that. What is that? That's in the bottom left-hand corner. 8 cuts. Okay. Click, and then it's saying where do you want to place it. Right-click to cancel the movement so it places it right in the center. And now, there we go. Okay.
I refreshed the screen because I wasn't fucking
We've got
tabbed in.
round sprinkles. Yeah, like that.
Okay. No, we're fine. Oh my god! Clicking on buttons, losing it. Okay, we're good.
What is that? That's in the bottom left hand over here that is just long and straight but low poly, and this one same shape but high poly. So to add a bend to it, in previous tutorials I actually went into like edit mode and we did like proportional editing, and it was just complicated and it actually didn't look great. I've learned actually there's a modifier that'll do it very simply. Go to your modifier stack, add modifier. You could find it inside here. Or you could search for it, but it's the simple deform modifier. So add that, and by default it is wrong, so change it from twist to bend. And look at that, we've got our sprinkle. Ha! And you can very easily, change the amount from a little curve to a large curve. And I think somewhere around the 30-degree mark. You will notice though that it's like it's bent more at this angle, and that's because it's bending it according to the origin point. So you see these little dots? You might have wondered what they are in Blender. That's called your origin point, and it's used for a lot of things. Like if you rotate an object, you can see it's rotating from the point of that origin point. Like physics, a bunch of things use the origin point. The best way to think of it is like the center of mass for the object. So generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, you want it to be in the center of the object. And you can do it very quickly. You select multiple objects you want to clear its origin point, shift, select all of them, and then right click and then say set origin to geometry. And now you can see it's put it in the middle, and now our curve is actually based on the
I did them all from the start, so I don't have to worry about this. I'm so fucking smart. I am the smartest person alive. Stare in awe at how fucking smart I am. We don't need you. Get out of here. Ah, my phone. Please don't disconnect. I didn't hear ba-doop-a-doop. That doesn't mean that it can't happen. It didn't happen. Oh, the whiskey is hitting. I'm having a hard time focusing, but we're good. We're gonna keep going. Mr. President, there's been a second plane. Jesus Christ. Do nothing. Act like we didn't see it.
starting in the middle, which is what we want. So yay for us. Now I need to apply this or else the next part it'll go wonky. So apply your simple deform so that it's actually realized onto the mesh. Okay, so going to your outline, you can see we started from humble beginnings, but we've now got too much going on, and it's all starting to get a little bit chaotic. So the way you organize things in your outline and in Blender generally is you can group things together by creating collections. So by default, we've actually got one collection already, just called collection, but we can create new collections by this little button in the top right-hand corner to create a new collection. And I want to create it outside of our I mean, I don't actually know if we need, like, I don't know why it creates a collection for you. For no, I mean, you could just, it's in the scene collection. So, anyways, I don't know if we actually need that one. So we create a new collection just by hitting that, and we can double click it to rename it to be whatever it is we want. So I'm going to call this Sprinkles.
Ah! I'm...
Um,
Oh, that is
and because
Sprinkles.
we have two types of sprinkles. We have this.
I fucking spelled it Sprinkles. The fuck is a Sprinkle? I almost did it again. Spiraling! Spiraling! The fact that the first thing I see on returning is Yurt's comment just defames the entire stream. I am slightly inebriated, and I've been so sucked into this, I haven't really said anything for the past half hour. I've just been doing donut shit. And I'm sure there are people that are bored out of their mind. I apologize, but I am so fucking locked in right now, I can't back out.
Round sprinkle.
We're
and then
getting
we
a
have
donut by the end of the fucking night, and I'm not gonna stop until we get it.
these long sprinkles. I'm going to create two other collections within this collection. So hitting new again, you can see it's placed it underneath it. And I'm going to call this one round. And then clicking sprinkles again, I'll add another collection. And this one I will call long. Oh, wait, sorry. This one, long. There we go. Okay, so to move something to a collection, you can do it one of two ways. One, you can select the sphere, which is the round. Remember, it's this little guy over here. The little tiny round.
I've done it in Photoshop. I know how this
drag
works.
that into the that collection, and you can see it's now moved it there. The other way is in your 3D viewport. If you select all
I almost
the
did it again.
objects
Round
that you wanna
sprinkles.
move to a new collection, hit M, and it brings up this, and you just say move to the sprinkles long sub collection. There we go. And now they're all moved there. And now this one here, if you wanted to give this a name, you could. We got the camera, we got the light, we got the plane. Yeah, you know what? Let's move our donut and our icing. Let's move that to a new collection as well. So M, and we can actually create a new collection from the move options as well. So I'm going to go new, and let's call this let's say donuts, because we're going to duplicate it and make more donuts in the future. So donuts. Okay, great. So now this one here has got the camera, the light, and the plane. So I'm going to do what I sometimes do with a scene is just call this one ENV, which is for environment. Since this is a tutorial, I'll actually just type it out. I'm not going to be lazy. Environment. Okay, so we've got some organization in our scene so that as we add...
Slow down, buddy. I'm not done yet. Environment. Wait, what are... Oh. Scene tools. Tools. Okay, we're all organized.
and grow our scene. It's not going to get too crazy. All right, so it's also good that we've created collections because we can now use that to scatter across the geometry nodes. So with our donut here.
Spronkles. Spiraling. 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 Just gotta keep walking. Sprinting. Just gotta keep sprinting. Running. Just gotta keep running. Running is what I gotta do.
So the icing and the donut, we're going to create a duplicate.
I fucking miss SpongeBob. Have you watched new episodes of SpongeBob? It fucking sucks.
And this is going to be the variant with the long sprinkles. So Shift D and then hit X to move it along the...
What? You mean Y? Because I'm working in the Y-axis. Why would you do it down there? Oh, I know why.
X-axes. So it's just placed next to it across the geometry nodes. So with our donut here, so the icing and the donut, we're going to create a duplicate, and this is going to be the variant with the long sprinkles. So Shift D and then hit X to move it along the X-axes. So it's just placed next to it. And then clicking your icing.
Shift D, X. Why is it going down there? Should it not be... Whatever.
You can see we've got the modifier stack that we created the geometry nodes on. And if we were to start tweaking this and make this look like long sprinkles, it would apply to this one over here, because we can see that little number next to it. And that number, if you hover over it, I think we mentioned it before, but displays the number of users sharing this data. So any change you make to this is going to be reflected on that one. So if we click the 2 button, it's now independent, so we'll now have 2 different versions. So the one on the left...
Wait, why does mine not look the same? What?
The original one, let's call that round sprinkles. And the one on the right, let's call that one long. Brain fart for a
Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We're gonna keep going, but we're just gonna do everything in geometry nodes because I think I fucked up. How much have you drank? I finished off the bottle of Pendleton. A full bottle of Pendleton. Not a full bottle. It had like maybe a fifth left. So whatever a fifth of 375 milliliters is. Ugh.
second there. Long sprinkles. Okay. And now, with that object selected, let's go back to the geometry.
I'm very confused because he's able to change the sprinkle density here. But I have to go here, I think. And so I'm kind of... Motherfucker. And for some reason, I also can't move properly. Feeling it yet? Oh, I've been there. I cannot move in this instance for some reason, so... Like, for some reason, I'm not allowed to move here, which is weird. I'm not sure what the problem is. But that's fine. Layout.
Nodes tab. Okay. All right, so make sure you're looking at the right object. Make sure it's the one with long sprinkles in the name. And if we were to start editing here, we would have we would have made one big mistake, and it's because this is actually not the long sprinkles node setup. We clicked the pin button. Remember that? The pin means it's always going to be there, even if it's another object with a different geometry node setup. So remember, yeah,
Try
it's a
with middle
common
mouse to
mistake.
press
You always
down.
do it.
No, I mean, that's what you have to do, but I literally cannot do anything. Whatever, who cares?
You forget you've got pin on and then you start changing things and it does the wrong one. So make sure you're looking at the one that has long sprinkles in the name. Okay, so the bit that obviously matters the most is this.
Oh, okay, so he's
This
made a
bit,
shortcut.
where it
I don't know how to make the shortcut.
into
Stop it! But I could do the same thing in here without the shortcut. Sprinkles, not sprinkles. Did I do that for both of them? No, I didn't. Okay.
our instance on points node, and we've currently got it connected to a sphere. So, I mean, you could change that to another object, but that won't help us because we've got more than one object. We want to scatter 4 different objects across it. So we can delete that, and instead, where it goes into our instance on points node, and we've currently got it connected to a sphere. So, I mean, you could change that to another object, but that won't help us because we've got more than one object. We want to scatter 4 different objects across it. So we can delete that, and instead, just drag from your outliner. Don't just, if you click on it, oh yeah, if you click off it, it's just going to disappear. So make sure you don't do it. You've clicked the icing, but you need to click and drag into your node setup. And now it's got a collection info node rather than object info node. Drag that into your instance input, and nothing happened. It has actually happened.
Whoa!
It's off center in a weird place. Why is it doing that? It's because of the way 3D software handles data. It's now doing it on its like global or local position, not relative to, anyway, it doesn't matter. what you need to do is check 3 boxes whenever you use collections to scatter. Separate, reset children. Now it's on the mesh correctly, and then you can see it's actually using all 4 of them on each point. So then you click pick instance, and now it's going to use 1 of those, not all 4 of them together. Okay, so it's good. It's using it, but what's going on? Well, the reason this one was easier with its round sprinkles is that the rotation of the objects didn't matter because it was round. Now that we have long sprinkles, you can see
I still can't move.
rotation matters. And
Okay, why can I not move? This is bothering the fuck out of me now. I cannot get out of this view. Like, if I go to layout, I can move around with the same tools. But if I go to geometry nodes, I can't do shit fuck about anything. I cannot move around. I cannot... It's like the scale has screwed it up somehow. And I can't select any of these things to fix that. So... whatever.
It's currently screwed up. So how do we fix that? The first way, well, yeah, there's a number of things you need to do to make it work correctly. You'll see. Is we want to take the rotation of the face. So the face of these mesh here, we want it to affect the objects, right? So we take the output of our distribute points on faces, the rotation of that, and drag it into the rotation input of the instances. And now you can see it's having some effect. It's still not right, but that is because these sprinkles are currently just pointed upwards. So it thinks, okay, well, you want to point them all outwards. Anyways, to fix that, I mean, you could fix it you could actually fix it in geometry nodes. This is simpler. So if we just rotate those sprinkles along the x-axis, so R, X, right? And then we just want to lie them down flat. So essentially 90 degrees. You could type in 90 degrees, or holding down Control will move it in 5-degree increments. Okay, so 90, and then do a single click. Okay, so why has that not worked? Well, it's because, as I mentioned before, when you're scaling or rotating things, it's not actually saved to the object. So to apply it, you have to go Control A and then say rotation. Now that we've done
Looks like shit still, but okay.
on that, it's worked correctly. All right, so now you can see what I said by you need to do a lot to make it work correctly. The rotation is working, but it's not doing what you would expect, and that's because geometry nodes are so flexible, you have to tell it exactly what you want to do. We want actually random rotation. So around each of the points, we don't want to each have the exact same rotation. We need to randomize it. So for that, if you want to tweak the rotation on anything between this point here, on this dotted blue line, let's just move that out of the way, we need to add Shift A, Utilities, Rotation, Rotate, not Euler, Euler. Yes, I know. They went with the weird pronunciation. I think it was a Frenchman, right? Could be German. Doesn't matter. Same, right? Just to annoy all the Europeans. Anyways, rotate Euler.
That was not right. Shift A, Utilities, Rotation. Huh?
And we're just going to drop it on, not Euler, Euler. Yes, I know.
Okay, okay. This is straight up not my thing. Hold on. Oh, it's in... Appreciate it.
They went with the weird pronunciation. I think it was a Frenchman, right? Could be German. Doesn't matter. Same, right? Just to annoy all the Europeans. Anyways, rotate Euler, and we're just going to drop it on that line till it lines up. Okay, so nothing's happened currently, but with this, we could change the rotation of our sprinkles up here. But you'll notice that as you rotate it, it's kind of weird. It's not the rotation that you would expect for each point. It's the relative to the actual object as a whole, right? Which just means we need to change from object to local. And now, as you move it around, you can see we're able to rotate those sprinkles. But again, it's not changing the like randomizing it. It's giving a solid value. So to randomize it, if we drag out of the rotate by input and then type in random, it'll bring up this, and we're looking for random value. Click, and now we get this. Ooh. So this...
Hold on, this is bothering me. It's totally not the problem we need to be worried about right now, but it's bothering me. Whatever.
So to randomize it, if we drag out of the rotate by input and then type in random, it'll bring up this, and we're looking for random value. Click, and now we get this. Ooh. So this node looks kind of scary, right? It's got a whole bunch of different values in it, and it says vector, and it's very, very foreign. It's actually easier to understand it from a float point of view. With the random value, if it's in a float state, it's going to generate a value from 0 to 1 on each point. So if you've got like 10 points, one of them is going to be like 0.015, one is going to be like 0.92, and one's, whatever. When it's in vector state, it's the exact same thing. You've got min and you've got max, but there are 3 values. And the reason for that is that there are 3 axes. There's the x-axis, there's the y-axis, and there's the z-axis. And same here, right? So you're able to define what type of rotation on each axis. So if we set both, and by the way, if you want to change multiple values at once in Blender, you can just click and drag down, and then you can change all of them. So we set all of them to 0, and now you could see this bottom one is going to be the Z, because it's X, Y, Z. It doesn't tell you, like, I don't know, because it's vector math, I guess there's other areas of Blender, anyway. But this is the Z axis. If we increase this one, you can see that's the main one that we want to change, right? Because that's the one that makes the most difference. Now you might also know, looking at this, you're probably thinking like, okay, well we need to rotate it by 360 degrees, so we would set this to 360. But you can see they're more than rotating fully already. So what value is this exactly? This is radians. Oh, just to get real. So radians, degrees. Actually, like I had to ask
so it's 90
before I recorded this.
It's 90 is what you're saying. It's 90?
What's the difference? Radians are more mathematical and easier for mathematical equations. It's the circumference of pi. No. 2 pi is the circumference.
Radius is half of the diameter, which is the complete length across one point to another point directly across the circle. So it's half. So I'd assume 90 degrees?
Obviously, I don't know.
Yeah, it's obvious.
But what I'm trying to tell you is, you just need double pi to make it 360 degrees.
Oh, so 6.28. That's what you're saying.
Which is actually tau to make it really
Go fuck yourself! Alright, fine. Oh fuck, I lost my point.
So you can type in tau and it'll actually give you the correct value. So that's 360 degree rotation. We also want it, because you can see this is the other axis, like the middle one spinning around. So we also want it on that one.
Oh, no, we do not.
One. So let's make that tau. And then this top one is the X, which is actually going to make it like wonky, like, so these will be like seesawing up. So if you increase that, that's where it gets crazy, and you don't really want to use that. You do want a little bit though, because it would make sense if they're sprinkles. They're not going to be completely flat. You're going to have some variance where like some bit has absorbed into the icing at a different angle than another.
Didn't like geometry in high school, I take it? No, I did. I just never heard a single person use the term tau. I thought we were talking about angles. Half of it would be 90. Because I was assuming that when you're talking diameter, you mean half of the circle. And so another half of that would be 90. Like cutting a circle in half and then cutting it in half again, because you'd have 100. You know what I mean. But if we're talking about pi, that'd be 6.28, 3.14159, so 6.283. It's, yeah. So, I've never heard the term tau in my life. But whatever.
Just not too much, essentially, or else it starts to look like little marshmallows or whatever all over it. But guys, that's roughly it. That's the hard work. That was, I mean, I know that was very technical, but it was just 2 notes. Rotate Euler, set it to local.
How many do we have left? Oh my god, there's so many left. Are we gonna, you know what? I think we're gonna call this good for now. My brain is slowly turning into potato salad. I think we should call it quits for now. And finish this up next week. Because we've gotten to part 7. And there are 14 parts. So we're halfway there. So we can finish it up next week. And then the week after, we could try it ourselves with the Cyberduck. And next time, I'm not going to get fucking shit-faced drunk when I do it. How's that sound? I think that's what we're going to do. Is getting into trigonometry. I've got to learn it some way or the other. So I'm going to save this. Close out of it. And we're going to save it for next time. We're going to do this again because we've been doing this for 3 hours. And I'm starting to lose what I've been picking up. But I think we're getting somewhere. I think I can kind of get an idea of what we need to do in order to make the Cyberduck. We won't be able to rig it or anything like that. That's going to be a whole different animal. But I can get into that later. We can start a whole nother tutorial on rigging and facial animations and shit like that. And then making a character model, like body down or neck down. We can do that later. I feel like the Cyberduck's a good starting point because that's got a few different things. It's got a normal arm and a bionic arm. Your donut is done? No, we're halfway there. We're halfway there. We're going to finish it up next week because there's a whole nother 7 parts and we are here for 3.5 hours and we're only to part 7 and there's 14. So we're going to finish it up later. I'm going to go drain the main vein and go to bed. Because I'm going to probably do a bunch of video editing tomorrow while it's a little bit cooler. Not by a lot, though. But I will see you guys. I don't know if I'm going to stream tomorrow night. So probably Wednesday. So until then,